start because we want to keep us. Ready? Go ahead. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm going to call the meeting to order tonight at 7:01 p.m. rather than 7 as we're searching for the internet password. Thank you for being here. And
That's not
no, thank you though. It's nice. I've had a little hiatus in 3 different states, and I'm back, however, and appreciate all that's been happening. I'm going to start by saying we are recording this meeting, and if anyone else is recording, if you could just, by Massachusetts general law, identify you're doing so that everyone in the room is aware that is happening. All right, very good. Next on the agenda that we have today is to approve the minutes from July 20th, 2019. So I will entertain a motion, and then we can have discussion of anything that people would like to go first. June, what did I say?
June 20th. I was going to say
I was
that.
surprised, but
I know, me too.
No, I was looking, I was like, July.
Did I say July? I did not even know I said July. I was looking at the 6th, and I said July. That's telling you.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the June 20th, 2019 meeting.
Are there any discussion in that regard? Okay. Then take the vote. Approve the minutes. All in favor? All right. Very good. That passes 5-0. We're good to go. All right. So I'm gonna.
I just wanted to, before you go into the chair,
Yeah,
highlight
please
the
do.
format of the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay,
Go,
cool.
You can go right ahead. You do it. I had it on here, but you go.
Okay. You know, I just wanted to point out on the agenda where we've added approximate minutes to timeframes to agenda items. We're gonna try to do this going forward to help make our meetings a little bit more efficient and formatted and streamlined to set good expectation of what we're envisioning when people are here with us, and to try to keep us on target and timeline so we're not leaving at 11 o'clock every meeting as much as possible if we can avoid. But so that's a new item, and we just wanted to highlight that because it is not something that has been seen before, and we've heard feedback through a lot of things that it might be something that would work well. So, but we're testing it out.
Yep. The other thing about that is just helpful is people often ask, they're looking to attend for a particular piece.
Yeah.
So being able to have it timed to some extent as best we can just helps people know when they should be popping in for the piece that they're looking for. So we'll try to stick to those times and estimates, but being aware that there's going to be some margin of shift one way or the
No one
other.
turns off like the mic or anything if you've exceeded your minute allotted.
Yeah, right. That as well. But just in general, we'll see how we do that and go from there. So I guess for a chair report, I'm going to keep it very simple because I have 5 minutes on the agenda, as you'll see.
Get 4 now.
So, and they will shut the mic off on me. No, just kidding. I want to give a huge thanks to Natasha, who is vice chair. I have been out of town for work over the last few weeks, and then I took a mini vacation for 2 days, and I've been able to do some phone and online work, but there's been a lot to move forward in that time, as you all may be aware, because I'm imagining someone in green maybe. We have an interim superintendent here with us, which is very exciting. And just many other fronts, there's been work going on. I'm very grateful to what Natasha
It's a big team effort.
and
It's been really big team effort.
and to I have right here, and to the whole team.
Yes.
Everyone is. I just really appreciate what we're doing. So just a little slice of what's going on, and everyone can mention other particular items throughout the agenda and then in member comments as well to share other activities. August 5th, we have our Setting District Goals Priorities with MASK, and we're prepping for this meeting. I did just Dorothy had sent examples, and I'll also post them in our Google Drive from other districts, strategic summaries that, strategic plans that other districts have used. And then Jennifer, we're going to also have a strategic plan that for the district learning goals. Is that Is that accurate? So that we'll have those as for guiding our decisions and deciding what we feel like those priorities are. We've had FinCom is.
Can I ask you to get those ahead of time so we can review?
And FinCom has reached out to us on several fronts. They're looking to tour Green Meadow. They want to be able to just see what progress that's been made in the renovations. And so Morrow has been working with them to schedule that. They also reached out, which just happened today, so this is kind of new news that we'll be moving forward, to get more data on the Maynard Public Schools student population, including out of district. So they're really trying to understand the context in which we're operating and our budget is operating. So, and he's looking to do that in as streamlined and simple a way as possible based on data we're already collecting and in a form that we're already collecting it, which is very gracious. So I will pass that along further. I think Michelle had been on that particular email. But just so everyone's aware, and the community is aware, FinCom is doing their due diligence as well. We were contacted by Brendan Chetwynd, who's the chair of the Master Planning Steering Committee, to have a half hour of the school committee's time to give input into the town master plan. So that's possibly on the next agenda for August 22nd, depending on the timing of when they need that information. And that's been...
Dawn and I sort of dropped the ball on that because when he first reached out in February, it was right before the Green Meadow stuff happened, so I was redirected.
Yeah, we were redirected.
He did ask, it'll be great to have him at the meeting because the one thing that keeps getting reiterated is we don't want minutia. He wants big scale, large scale on that. So, so maybe would it be okay for me to reach out to him between now and the next meeting, and maybe we could come up with a draft?
Yeah, why don't
How would you like to do that?
I'll look you in.
3 pieces, but they don't really speak to what we want to do.
He did include a particular passage where we would focus on of the recommendations. Yeah. But I think if we wanted to expand further, I think that would be appreciated. But I think where he narrowed down the preferred.
If you had some ideas and you wanted to start jotting, that can only move us forward.
Right. For me, when I was talking to Dawn about it, it was more about our vision. It was more about they were more technical oriented versus the vision of
which they wouldn't have as much a sense
of.
Which
so
is what
I'll reach out to him and we'll put something together for everybody to look at.
Great. We have a few items we've been talking about where we're going to place them, where they're going to sit in our summer agendas. So a couple of things that are moving are other subcommittee liaison assignments. So we're doing that. It will make sense to be able to do that after our goal and strategy setting on August 5th in any case. And then officially meeting Mr. Mcgillicuddy. Are we doing that tonight?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
excellent.
Yes, we are.
All right, very good. And also Donna is back in the building at Green Meadow, as I understand it. Yeah. So that we'll be able to look at putting some meet and greets, and we won't steal that thunder then. And one other thing, this is my last thing, and I think I might still be within 5 minutes. We, as part of our bylaws, we need to make sure we have 2 citizen comments in every meeting. Special meetings are a little bit of a special case, but since this is a regular meeting, I wanted to make sure it's okay with everyone if we add in before our next agenda item a citizens comment period to make sure that we're sticking to that. I did not catch that when we were setting the agenda, so I apologize for that. Natasha was stepping in to make sure to set the agenda while I was away.
Is it usually before the superintendent's report or after the superintendent's report?
If they don't set that, we can do it whenever we want. So if you want to do it after that report, we can do that.
I kind of feel like that.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense because then there's maybe a little more substance to be able to say. But there's also, everyone may note that there's a citizen's comment as well at the end of the agenda. So we try to do something in the beginning. If someone has something they want to make sure to mention and then they want to hightail it out of here because they did their piece and they're done, they can do that for instance.
And I think that our template agenda that we've historically have used had both.
Yes. And
we've kind of not stuck to it in a way that is sustained. So I think, for community, setting the expectation of consistency will be important for us to demonstrate in that regard.
Yeah. and it's just a good thing to be able, people know what to expect, they know what's going to be
right.
there.
So you don't come into a meeting
Yes.
thinking you have a chance to, and then you have to wait till the end to,
Right. So let's, if that's good with everyone, I don't think we need to officially vote, as long as we're all.
No, it's part of the,
Yeah,
it's part of the
yeah.
policy already that they have one.
Okay.
We've just deviated away from
How many
it.
minutes?
I don't think we need 20 times 2.
No, I don't either.
No, I think if we do this, maybe 15 times 2, something like that, 15 minutes times 2.
Or 10 and then 20?
Well, let's see how it goes, and we can
we don't have to decide.
monitor.
Yeah, I mean, the minute piece is, those
We'll
are
figure
movable.
that out as we go.
Right, right.
So let's do our superintendent report next, and then we'll have a space for citizens' comments right after that, in case anyone has anything they would like to mention.
Great, thank you. So one of the pieces of information that we get very excited about, which may seem strange to some folks, is the MCAS data that we get every summer. We did just get the raw information scores, and our principals have the raw data to be able to look at discrepancies and challenge some of the findings if they see anything that is incorrect. We are excited to report that we did have 100% participation this past year, which is something that we have been pushing on for several years, so it's nice that we were able to focus on something, develop strategies for making that happen, and that we're seeing those goals come to fruition. So that is very exciting for our district. We do not have the analytical data currently that we use to develop our MCAS report, and then to also talk about our goals for the next year. But the state, due to the fact that all of the, or most of the MCAS are currently the next generation online, we should be getting that in the next couple weeks, which is far earlier than we were getting it previously. So I'm very excited to be able to work with our principals of curriculum instruction and assessment around the academic data that we see there, to be able to evaluate that prior to the school year starting, and then also looking at the vocal survey, which is the survey that MCAS gives in 5th, 8th, and 10th grade for cultural data within the school. So we can use that to compare to our past year's 2018 data and really see how we're doing in that capacity. And our leadership and operations principals will be doing some of that work as well. So we're very excited about those data points coming out. The Green Meadow project continues. Oh,
Before you
sure.
go on, so what does that do for us as far as levels? You know, how we were.
We don't know that yet, but participation is one of the factors that we had been working on. We have a variety of other factors that we have been targeting, including our chronic absenteeism, that I'm hopeful at 2 of the buildings we have made significant strides towards. So we will see what those data points are once all of that accountability data has come out. But the participation one is one that we've spoken about multiple times. So very early reports, but that's a positive benchmark. The Green Meadow project continues to move along smoothly. We have the sinks installed in both the pre-K and the kindergarten wings. And as before, we are on target for the opening of school and the moving in of staff. And so that continues to move smoothly, and we're very excited about that. And along those lines, I'm very excited to welcome and introduce our interim principal for leadership and operations, Tim Mcgillicuddy. He has been in district for a couple of weeks, meeting with faculty and staff and getting to know the district. So I'd like to give him an opportunity to speak with all of you.
Thank you. And I brought my resume, so I'll leave that as a gift after I leave.
Your big news, did your daughter have the baby yet?
What's that? My daughter is hopefully, she's hoping that it happened yesterday. Her due date is August 4th, which is Sunday. And she was told that if it goes past August 4th, to come right in and they'll do something about it. So, so she is swimming every day, and you know, she's ready. She is ready.
I imagine the summer.
And so are we. So I have to hold my wife down because it's our first grandchild.
Oh,
Boy.
that's super exciting.
Yep.
Wow.
So allow me to, I'm going to just give you a very thumbnail sketch of my resume, and the resume is not that thick. So I started work with children in 1971, and I've been involved with children, primarily middle school children, for a long time. I was a childcare worker. I was thinking about what am I going to do with my life after childcare work. I did that for 5 years. I contemplated social work and or special education. I opted for special education. I got a master's degree from Boston University. I taught in Hudson, Massachusetts from 1978 until 1993. And then I became an assistant principal in Lowell for 4 years. I became principal in Townsend, Mass. For another 4 years. And then I love Lowell. I love the kids in Lowell. And I had an opportunity to come back to be the principal of the school that I was assistant principal at. Unfortunately, they closed our school abruptly, and I ended up in Brookline, Mass. So it was like, from one end to the other. And I retired in 2010. It didn't quite take. And I got a call from Dr. Wilson, who had been an assistant superintendent in Brookline, and she was now the superintendent in Sudbury. So I worked in Sudbury for 3 years, and last year I worked in Nashua, New Hampshire at an elementary school. So starting in Brookline, and then in Sudbury, and then in Nashua, New Hampshire, I became an elementary person. So I have a lot of miles in this whole body. And the other things I just want to say, just to kind of define myself, my belief is as a leader in collaboration. I believe that all of us is much stronger than any one of us. I didn't believe that when I became an assistant principal or principal first, but I came to believe it. And you make mistakes and you learn from them, and collaboration for me is essential. I also describe leadership as being a servant, and by that I mean I wouldn't ask anybody to do what I wouldn't do. And I have an open door policy. I believe that teachers need support constantly, and I'm open to helping them problem solve. I'm not going to give them answers, but they have a sounding board in me. And above all, I want to be a positive role model. I have really high expectations of myself. I have high expectations of teachers. I have high expectations for children. I think children can do amazing things. So when I was in Sudbury, an example of some of the amazing things that children can do, I was an interim, and they were going to select a new principal. And there were fora for various constituencies, parents and teachers. And we introduced students as part of the process. So students actually got to interview the candidates, and I gathered them together. We chose from kids from grade 3, 4, and 5, and there were about a dozen children who sat in a group around each of the candidates.
Love that. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's have it.
And asked some amazing questions. One I remember is a fourth grader asked, "So how do you make this school a welcoming place for everybody?" Unprompted. I mean, I didn't help them. I gave them the index cards and sent them away and brought them back, and amazing. I believe also that a leader has to be present, highly visible. My practice, people in Brookline refer to me as old school, because every day I would stand outside the school greeting parents and kids as they came into school. It afforded me an opportunity to not only be in contact with children, but also answer questions that parents may have on the fly. And that visibility was also in school. I believe that, you know, as a principal, I had a mantra, every classroom, every day. And sometimes that visit may be 2 or 3 minutes, but I think the children need to see me and the teachers need to see me. At the end of the day, same thing. Cafeteria, I was there every day. I have a great story about being in the cafeteria in an elementary school. And I was just wandering around, and a little boy, is in first grade, little boy raised his hand, and I went over and he said, can you open this banana? And I said, sure. And I peeled the banana, I gave it back to him, walked around, noticed his hand was up again. And he said, my friend is a little shy, but he's having trouble opening his banana too. And I said, certainly, open the banana, peeled the banana, gave it to him. And he looked up at me and he said, so where did the other principal go? And I said, oh, he took another job closer to his home and so on. And he said, I know why they chose you. You're really good at opening bananas. So I'll finish by saying school should be a place that is joyful. Kids, you know, especially elementary school, especially a K-3 school, it should be a happy place with lots of laughter, and, you know, just kids being, you know, to your point, Jennifer, you know, attendance at school, you know, kids should want to come to school because it's so engaging and so exciting, and they are at an age where their curiosity is unboundless. I mean, it's just, there is no boundary to it. So I think that's the place, you know, that I want to see, you know, Green Meadow or any school, you know, a joyful place for kids. So thank you, and if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. That was just like, I love the every classroom, every day. I have like a whole bunch of quotes here that you just really, really inspiring. So I'm welcome to Maynard.
Thank you. Thank you.
How's it going so far?
Pardon?
How's it going so far?
Keeping busy. There's a lot to do, and I've been able to find my way around the building. And it's actually, if you are calculating your miles, a couple of tours around Green Meadow, yes.
A lot of steps.
And I've, you know, I make it a point to go into the kindergarten, pre-K wing on a daily basis just to check how progress is going.
Appreciate that.
Great.
And so it seems to be going well. It looks cleaner, brighter. I saw it when it was just a shell. Much improved.
Well, we really appreciate you being here. We're, I think everyone is looking forward to this year ahead and all that we can accomplish for Maynard and there's a lot of good energy and movement for every single person that's in this room right now and many more. So thank you for being here. And I would like to know, which side of the banana do you open?
You start at the top of the banana.
So you use the stem side.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I use the other side. My
I've
kids
heard
told me the other
philosophies
side is the
about
better, and I
both.
tried it, and it's easier.
Open it that way.
I think
Like
that's
the actual
we're authentic. Yeah, we go like
I
movie style.
also open ketchup.
Secret talents.
Milk containers?
And milk containers. Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Can you guys remind us when the meet and greet is for the parents?
Yeah.
Yes.
What day?
So I'm in the process. I wrote a letter to parents. So I haven't been able to get my technology together yet. Donna's going to help me get it out tomorrow. We're looking at August 12th as a meet and greet date, and having a morning event around 9 o'clock, and then an evening event around 6:30.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you for doing that both.
So we'll be sending it out through the Thrill Share system, which we've done, but we'll likely also be posting it online as well.
Very excited to have you.
Thank you
Sure
very
we'll
much.
be seeing more of you.
Yes.
Thank you
All
very
right, thank you.
much.
Thank you
you.
so much for coming. And that concludes my superintendent.
Thank you. All right, very good. Thank you. So we are now going to move into citizens' comments.
Madam Chair, if I might make a recommendation that you have a motion to amend the agenda to include citizens' comment as an agenda item. You
Yes.
entertain a motion.
You may. I would like to entertain a motion.
I'll make a
Citizens'
motion.
comments.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we insert an additional citizens' comments between superintendent's report and the ratifying the interim superintendent contract.
I'll second it.
Discussion? I would just like to say in my discussion that you did say that, and you were correct. All right, all in favor? Very good. All right, citizens' comment. We will have that now in case anyone would like to make a comment. Up front.
Oh, come on, after all that work.
Have something.
On the spot.
Very good. All right. Well, then we will now move into the interim superintendent contract and ratification. I did want to just have us just make sure we're just being run over the elements. If someone would be willing to just run through some
Like
of them.
where the process was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we had the executive session after our last meeting, and this was after we had voted to engage in contract negotiations with Miss Mary Jane Rickson. We had our executive session. We had a contract that was presented. There was run through legal. Then it came back, and a slight tweak was just to the start date. But everything else was in order, so it really has already been voted on for all those pieces. And so it's just a matter of the start date, which would be reflective of August 7th, which would be and to accommodate vacation, which is certainly, I know, how unreasonable. But it was, I think the process was very quickly evolving, and thank you to Mary Jane for working with us in our speedy timeline and getting this going, and truly appreciate your flexibility with that. So that's where we are today. So we have a signed contract, and then I think we just need to vote on it, sign it, and vote on it.
Vote on it and then sign it. Yes. In that order.
Vote on it and then sign on it. Yes.
Does
Yes.
this have to be a roll call vote?
It just needs to be. It's open session, so I don't believe it is. The executive session, I think, is where those.
But that's the only time?
I don't know.
We could always do it just to err on the side of caution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It didn't indicate in the. It just said that it had to be basically ratified in public
Yep.
meeting.
Okay.
So that was the stipulation. It didn't specify with a
Okay.
roll call vote.
Just asking.
Yeah. Good question.
So I'd like to make a motion that we accept the agreement between Maynard School Committee and Mary Jane Rickson as it was amended in that from our attorney.
I don't know that. Do you know?
I second.
Oh, I have it right here. I just printed it out.
Oh, you print. Oh.
Is there any? You want to take a look?
No, because I
It's the same thing.
I've read it.
The only change was
Yeah.
the date.
Right, that
Yeah.
was it.
Is there any further discussion on that?
Not from me.
Nope.
Okay. Well then, you're right. If we do all in favor, would you want to do roll call just for the sake?
Why don't we just do roll call, just so,
Okay.
just to err on the side, yeah.
So let's do a roll call vote on Mary.
Conley, yes.
Yes.
Lydia. Kathleen. Yes.
Maura Hogan, yes.
Natasha Rivera. Yes.
Thank you. We're ratified. I will sign.
here-
Do we
here's
all?
the-
Do we decide to all sign, or we
No,
just
just
have the
you.
chair
Just the
sign?
chair.
Okay. Just trying to be all.
Chair.
Okay.
We all can put like emojis and stuff, like smiley faces around it, but I don't know if that's really professional.
I like to do the hands in the air.
Yeah.
You said that.
I did say
What
that one.
Natasha failed to mention was that we held executive session at Blue Coyote, so I don't know.
I wish. Lydia had her own executive session at Blue Coyote.
All right, that is signed.
Am I giving this to you? To you.
Very good.
It'll become part of public record. Yes, that's part of the ratifications. Public
I think
record.
that is in under 10 minutes. It seems to have fixed itself after all that.
Okay. Well, it may have remembered from the last
Yeah.
time.
Maybe it did. I thank you. Okay, very good. So we're gonna move right along. Our next is the executive session minutes. Did we decide that, did we find out that we could take care of those in this
Yep.
setting? Okay.
So, we have copies of the minutes, you can read through them.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you for making sure we have it in order.
should you choose to, you can seal them if you feel like there is something that, is ongoing conversations of the agenda items that are on here. I do not believe who they are since they were those pieces. So you can just move to approve them and then they would be available.
And this does need to be approved by a roll call vote. For everyone to be aware.
If the meeting minutes of June 20th were already approved, why do we have to do it again?
This is
We're
the executive
approving-
session.
We're approving the executive session. These are the minutes for the executive session itself. And we're approving
Why is it
these from July.
So
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
And the, so are we, do we need to make a motion to unseal them first?
First, we approve, and then we make a motion whether or not we would
Or sealing.
seal them, or they are.
'Cause they are sealed.
No, they haven't even been approved yet.
Okay, okay.
So the way that it normally, so this is, we haven't outdone this process yet as a team, as you see. So
We've done this in executive sessions.
Yeah.
we haven't done the accepting of the meeting minutes with Natasha there.
No,
in
you're right.
executive
Yeah,
session.
you're
No,
right.
it's Natasha.
You're right.
See? So I love it when I'm right. So what we need to do, and what we usually do, what we would normally do, every executive session,
We would
we
vote.
go to the minutes beforehand, and we would say, all right, first you look at the minutes and make sure that everyone agrees upon them. You do a roll call vote to approve. Then you do a roll call vote to either seal them at the time until such time as you that whatever the open what do you call, what's the term
It's not
for it?
relevant.
The open business, that
Continuing business, I believe.
continuing business.
Continuing business, yeah.
That sounds like a good term. Continuing business that needs to be
Made sealed.
continued under sealed under executive session rules and guidelines. You can seal it, or you vote to release it. So the first step is the
And this process
Approval.
can be done in both, it can be done in executive session as we did it there, but it also can be done in public
done in
session. And essentially what you would do is you would entertain a motion to seal the minutes due to unresolved matters.
That's the
And
term.
that way, you have on record that the minutes, there are minutes, but we have sealed them due to unresolved matters, but it's on record, it's on public record that conversation has taken place. So that was the preference of order when I investigated what we should be doing in terms of this capacity.
If we wanted to keep them, if we need to remain sealed.
Either way, whether you're gonna move to seal them or not, at least you have the, on record that you've discussed the executive, meeting minutes. And then should you choose to, you can choose to seal them.
so if we do that in the public setting,
That's
then it's
okay.
very clear to everybody what's.
Yeah, it might be
So
solve
we
a
could
couple
choose
of
that for
things.
our operational protocols moving forward.
Right.
So Jennifer, just a question, when the contract is signed, so, is that public knowledge? Is that for public?
Yeah.
The contract is
itself,
part of
right?
public
This
record.
just summarizes what the contract is, but the contract's out there for anybody that wants to take a look at it.
Correct. This summarizes the discussion that we had at the meeting.
Right, so basically, we
Right.
voted to approve it, and
Right.
then the next step is we need to then present it at public if that's what we, that's what we choose to do. But I think that's how the open meeting laws are requiring.
So, if that makes sense to everyone,
Yep.
and the first thing that we need to do with these minutes would be to take a roll call vote, to make a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the executive session meeting minutes from July 11th.
I'll second.
And then we take any discussion to potentially amend, consider before we take a roll call vote. Okay, very good. So we'll take a roll call vote then.
Yes, Mary.
Lydia?
Yes, Bethlyn?
Tomorrow, yes.
Natasha,
Oh, I didn't
yes.
say yay. Yay, Lydia.
Yay, yeah, I know, yay, yes. Is it all right that we say yes instead of yay?
Yay.
Either is
All right, so now we consider whether or not there are unresolved matters in relation to these.
So I think if anyone would like to make a motion to
Seal them?
seal them, then they might, but if there is no action
We
taken,
don't
then I
need
don't,
to.
correct, I don't think you need
Very
an
good.
affirmative
Okay,
action.
so this would be the time, if anyone would like to make such a motion, you could make that.
I don't think that.
I'm not seeing that there is a reason to say.
Okay, very good.
No.
Very good. Then, these minutes, now that we've approved them, we can make clear that,
I think we still have to make a motion to release them.
Release them, right?
we do?
Yep, we do.
Yes, release the minutes.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
I can look, I didn't
If
believe.
I do recall that we had to do that.
Isn't it automatically
Maybe we
released?
just have to make a motion if we're gonna seal them.
So
No, 'cause you can
let's-
approve them and
for,
just-
for purposes of this meeting, I would suggest making a motion to release the minutes, and then if that's
And then
not
we'll look
needed,
and
then
we'll figure it out ahead of
either
time.
way, it's
Right, because I
fine.
think basically when you're not sealing them, then they're,
Let's do this, rather than further discuss, we will get clarity for the next time we need to do this, and in the meantime, we'll make sure we cover ourselves, and we will, I'll entertain a motion to release the minutes.
I'll make a motion to release the minutes of July 11th executive session.
I will second that.
Any discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote on that.
Mary, yes?
Yay, Lydia.
Yay, Bethlyn. Sorry.
Tomorrow, yay.
Natasha, yay.
Very good. We will get clarity before the next time around. And now that we know that these are released, one part of the reason we were doing this, we wanted to be able to share that the paraprofessional contract has been approved, and that is public record. And that has, and then we had a custodial contract approval that includes an extension of the contract, 1-year extension into next year. So we just wanted to make that known
Yeah.
to everyone.
And I did have a question about that. Are we posting the contracts on the website? I know the older ones maybe are there, but I don't know.
There was an HR portion of the old website that there is on the new website, but recently I was on there and I don't think the links are working, so we can make sure that works.
Okay, because I think I was looking for the teacher. Yeah, I think I was looking for the teacher contract at one point, and it had it was some protected behind, and I didn't know if it needed to be. I don't think any of them should be, right? Okay, all right.
For a public record.
Yeah. And so then also this includes the custodial contract as well, right? Says we approve that, so we can maybe release that as well, since that was part of the executive session, that we approved the 1-year extension.
Yeah, I think I just said that.
Oh, did you?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't miss that part, sorry.
That's all right. You were busy thinking of your
I was
other
thinking,
thing.
I was
Mhm.
thinking.
So, very good. So thank you for bearing with us as we're establishing our operational protocols and getting ourselves clear. And that's it for that. And we want to move into the Green Meadow Future Committee update. I'll summarize a few things and then allow for, we appreciate, as always, we have Green Meadow Future Committee members here with us and to be able to help our, I believe you chair and vice chair, you officially chair and vice chair? Okay. A couple of things just to note that I've seen from what's been going on that I'll summarize here, just to help with, we're all very eager to see the excellent progress and to get these updates that we've been getting. There have been weekly updates happening on Fridays. I'm very grateful that Jennifer's been making sure to coordinate that. One thing just to we wanted to say very clearly, for safety reasons, if anyone does want to have access to see what's happening in, as far as the renovations and the progress in that wing, we just need to be aware that you need to have authorization and accompaniment in order to enter the wing.
Well, it's an
So-
ongoing work site,
because
right?
it's
Yes.
an ongoing
Yes.
website.
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we want to be.
So
Insurance liabilities.
we do, we do have a process by which at this point, we now have Donna and Tim in the building, so folks can go to them, and we can refer to them for immediate questions around progress and updates, and that goes for community, it goes for anyone that may have questions and considerations.
And also I know the union leaders have really been part of a lot of the walkthroughs as well. So I think if there's any, teachers or staff that have questions that they really should, if not to administrator, to their union representative, I think would be an appropriate channel to try to get an understanding of what those outstanding questions or concerns might be, and then follow that channel to make sure that, one, we're not disrupting the workers who are on site. They clearly have a job that we want them to do and finish on time. But also because, again, it's just a work site, and I think that's something that I just want to stress, that we're not looking to fix one safety thing to create another as well. So that just is just something to everyone can remember.
So there have been, again, many things happening. So I'm sure you'll speak about community beautification events that will be forthcoming. Mara and Lydia had a recent meeting just this
Tuesday.
week, on Tuesday. I don't know what we're calling those meetings, but what are we
I've been calling them Maynard Town and School District joint meetings. Yeah, I mean, they're
Sounds very
With
official.
the-
unofficial.
With the project manager,
Manager.
yes.
Okay, very good.
And anyone else who feels
And-
like popping in.
And we have 2 more.
Two more.
Two
okay.
more.
And you're welcome to give an update on that. I'm just kind of adding
Oh,
some
I was going to
highlights.
do that during members' comments.
Great. And then, and as it
Because I
makes sense.
figured they might
Mhm.
say everything that I have to
They
say.
might. Yeah, they might very well. And then Jennifer, Michelle, and Greg are meeting tomorrow to discuss some additional Green Meadow questions that have arisen. Structural engineer, looking at a few classrooms
Costing
for the
bills.
soffit, pre-K wing, envelope study update. That's another thing that wanted to look at the timeline for that. HVAC equipment schedule, and making sure that's on during the school day.
Is this what they're about to address?
Those are some of the things that had come up that we're going to be able to loop back through their meeting, but they may also come up in this. I was just kind of providing a little bit of summary of what I knew were some of the
Got it.
the elements that were in the air. So those were some of the highlights I knew of, and I just wanted to summarize those and then allow for whatever updates you wanted to provide in discussion.
Yeah.
Do whatever
Come
you
up, you want
like.
to stay here?
It might be at the microphone
Yeah, I
or
think so the
there,
public,
it'll be great, so that
folks
people can hear you.
listening can
All right,
Yeah.
hear. Thank you.
thank you. You want to start with beautification?
Sure.
All right.
So I was going to send something this evening. We were just talking about what time we should start. So anybody listening or watching, it's going to be Sunday the 11th, and I think we'll begin at 8 a.m. just because of the heat. So, and then we'll have another Saturday the 17th. And yeah, we'll see. Same time, I think so. Yeah, same time. And I have that document that describes like what we were thinking, and you were so gracious to. Tim was so helpful to walk with Josh around and give us his professional advice on what we should do. So we're unless I wanted to see if the whole committee had any questions or concerns or.
Is there rain days scheduled by chance, or is it just
So
kinda
we
like
just did
happens
those
or
2
not?
dates. I was just kind of
Okay.
thinking like 2 standing dates, and then we could just keep going too. I mean, depending on how many people we have and how much we get done. That was Kyle's idea to just say like, okay, well, some of this stuff might be suited, for a different season, and so we are happy to schedule something else. And people are on vacation and stuff, so we don't know how many people we'll get. So, and it is kind of late notice. So, yeah, so we can keep going into the fall, but yeah.
Give people, like, you know, what to bring
Yes.
with them and what the
Yeah.
expectation is. The
Yeah,
plan,
hand
that kind
tool,
of thing,
yeah,
you know.
right, no power tools, hand tools, yeah, and just,
Well, you
and like kind of disclose, yeah, I do have it, and I didn't send it, I just realized, I don't think I sent it to the whole school committee, I think I just sent it to
There was a
the chair and
document, 'cause
vice chair.
I know Michelle and you had
Yeah.
weighed in on it, and
I sent it to you
Kyle.
two first,
Yeah, we
and
were
then
getting-
and I sent it to Jennifer,
Right, that was just
Michelle,
recently that we were
Kyle,
getting
and then I
going.
sent it to Greg and Justine as well, so so everybody just would have a general idea. But you guys might not have seen it.
No, I don't think it was final. Like
Okay,
feedback
so
was
I
still
can,
coming in on
I'll
it.
forward it, yeah. And so it was just basically like scope of different areas that we're gonna target and like what the intention for those areas would be.
And you guys will be spearheading who's doing what with the volunteers and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what Josh was looking at with Tim in terms of like how many, like walking the areas to be like, how many people would be in this area and, you know what I mean,
Oh,
just
I
so
think
that
I sent
we're,
over. I forwarded, but I think it was not with the one. I think it was the one with Michelle's feedback about it. But I
Oh,
don't think it
not with
included
the attachment.
The
Okay.
attachment.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Because I was just looking. I was like,
well,
know.
I can forward it,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah,
So what we'll probably do, just in talking it over with Tim, we will probably start focusing on the cleanup portion. It will then roll into a second phase of plantings. There's a lot of just general cleanup in and around the school to do. That's probably going to take us a couple days. The other important thing that we were discussing at our Green Meadow Future Committee meeting is the need to put firebar, also known as wood chips, down in the playgrounds. I know there was some email traffic about trying to get the inspections first. The concern is that right now you're bare in some locations, which is a direct violation of fall
So it should be
standards.
the opposite, right? You fill it and then you get the inspection. Or?
Well, I'm not, in a perfect world, you get the inspection, they'd tell you what depth to fill everything to, but like Donna said, you're pretty safe if you just go 6 inches all the way across. They may say this is going to be 4, this is going to be 6, but at least the material's already there and then it's just raking it out. I'm not sure we have the luxury of time to really wait. Kyle said he can get the 5-bar there pretty easily. The other thing is we're going to have the labor, so that's a time to do it, especially for the playground in the courtyard because it's awful difficult to get to. So while we have volunteers there, that's the time to do it. So that's going to be the first phase. The second phase really is I think a couple different things. One is planting beds around the perimeter of the building. The other is the interior courtyard. But quite frankly, with the interior courtyard, we really have to think about what the long-term plan is for Green Meadow. There's a tremendous amount of work and there could be a tremendous amount of investment in there if we're really going to be aggressive with a plan. I'm not necessarily suggesting that that's what we're looking to do because it would obviously require some alternative sources of funding. But we need to tailor the investment to what we think the long-term plan and long-term use of that courtyard is going to be. More viable short-term options are going to be outside of the courtyard. The perimeter beds, it's a matter of looking at plantings right around the boiler room intake where there's the old fence and the metal grates.
Vegetation.
Exactly. We want to get all that kind of cleaned up and brought out. In talking with Tim, he made some really good points that if we were to just completely denude it and go with a kind of a crushed stone bed, it's going to look very kind of cold. And what he actually suggested, we were talking about it earlier, was possibly removing the picket fence and going with a solid PVC type fence. Not traditional PVC, something that looks decent, but solid and right down flush to the ground so that we don't get the organic buildup in the pit. But it'll allow us to do some modest plantings in those beds so that it doesn't look so kind of ugly.
Just soil.
Yeah.
or just don't, like, we were just gonna like pull everything out and put
Right.
stone, but
so,
then.
So, I mean, I know the 11th is coming up, because I was thinking
Yeah.
that would be something like, depending on families, like easier kind of to pull up stuff, but I'm just wondering if there's, what the final thought is, if it would be ready for the 11th, or should we hold off on?
It'll be ready. So some of the stuff is quite obvious. Some of it just needs to be weeded. There's other areas around the corner by Donna's office, the principal's office, kind of another 30-foot section there. That really just needs to be,
By the
almost
Univent
everything needs to be
intakes,
ripped out
All
completely.
by the Univent stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
right.
There's very little plantings in there that should stay. A lot of it's invasives. There's, just as a warning to people, make sure you dress appropriately. There is still poison ivy around, ticks, yep.
And to that point, I would like to say, because a community member asked, and she's here tonight, asked a couple months ago about tick treatment. And from the communities that I've spoken with, which have been very few, and from the research that I've done online, most schools don't spray for ticks because it washes away and it's ineffective. And what they recommend is at least a 20-foot perimeter around the school and playground where all trees, all plantings, everything is cut back, so that you, and any underbrush, so that you eliminate the prevalence of ticks in the area of the playground and the schools. And to that end, I almost feel like we shouldn't do plantings because they can attract deer, and that just brings the deer closer to the school. So I think that may be something we want to consider.
All the more reason to really focus on this effort just being the cleanup portion. I think that it's a pretty good amount of work just to get that done, because that we didn't even get into the rest of the site. I mean, there's the circle out front. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's old stumps that are kicking around, just old chunks of wood. There's invasive plants that are pretty much all over the place. A lot of stuff that just needs to be trimmed up, cut down, hauled out, dead material. There's a lot of cleanup. So we could focus on that and then get the information from Tim. Tim generously offered to kind of sketch out what these might look like, and then we can all come back and talk about the best way to do that. I think the opportunity for planting really is to shift it away from the perimeter for the most part, which would help with the tick concerns, but also what we're looking at is by the flagpole, which is far less likely to attract deer just where it's at. And then when you're entering Green Meadow, right to the left, because there's no air intakes there, probably a little less likely to have deer on that side because it's all surrounded by asphalt. But with no fresh air intake, we can kind of get a little crazy over there if we want to. So.
Are you recommending how many volunteers you need, and also to ask people to leave their young children at home?
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Need that liability.
Yeah.
Yes.
Too many people
Yeah.
would not be
Right.
great.
Well, I know that one of the things, like Girl Scouts, they do
Boy Scouts,
this. So I wonder, like, if there's a certain, because I know that they, like, my daughter's 7, and they did this at Fowler. You know, they had to clean up. So I don't know, like, I know you hear you're saying about, you know, but they also planted things at the Coolidge Playground, you know, so I don't know the age.
Maybe the planting stage is when we.
Maybe certain things we carve
Yeah.
out, like this might be more
Like-
age appropriate for this group, and because I would hate to have a parent who isn't able
Yeah.
to come out at all, or a family because they have their kids with them who they don't have something to, you know, for that the kids can maybe help with pulling up weeds or something. I don't know, whatever they.
Also, the National Honor Society kids have to do the reserves. This would be great, because I know that they did it at the high school. They did a general cleanup like the last day of school or something, so we can draw on them too for, like you
Yeah.
say, the sequence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and especially if we are able to get the mulch, that's really almost anybody can help with that.
Right, bring your own rake.
That is truly a family event right there.
Right.
Just 2 things on that. One, for anyone that doesn't know, so it just happens, my husband is Tim Houlihan,
Yes,
and
sorry.
he's a landscape architect, so he's provided some sketches in the past when they were working on the playground, and he's offered. So does he have a timeline? just want to make sure.
When he and I talked, we said the next few weeks. But quite frankly, after walking the site with him, it was pretty clear that we're probably going to have to focus this first time on just the cleanup. So what he's offering really is the next phase, and then possibly the phase after
The real
that.
beautification.
Yeah.
part. This is.
This is the down and dirty.
Yeah.
Pre-beauty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. And I can also see if there's plants that deter
Oh,
deer.
there are.
So I can ask them.
Yeah.
And it is also, I just want to clarify, it's bring your own tools.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure, like, when we communicate to the community, like, is there like a certain, like, if we say like such as, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know,
I can
maybe a
do-
rake
so-
might be helpful.
Yeah.
Or,
I was going to write all that up and then
Okay.
like take precautions and, you know,
Yeah.
these are the things you should be aware of just in terms of
Okay. Awesome.
people being aware, like not lifting heavy, you know, things that they're not used to doing that and stuff like that. So I'll write all that. If you want it, I'll send it to the committee. If you guys, do you want to review it before I send it out, or?
I don't really feel a need.
I mean, I looked at your
Okay.
other your other stuff was really good. I would just say just to. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you guys are
clarify
doing a
that.
bang up
And
job.
what to bring, yeah,
Yeah,
what you
like,
should
like,
know.
like maybe some
Okay.
suggestive, clothing because
Yeah.
of this, like just small little things that
Yeah.
people aren't just, their kids aren't gonna be coming in like maybe in, like shorts, I don't know, but just to give
Yeah.
some framework a little bit to, if you have kids, this might be the most appropriate thing or this.
Yeah.
And
And we
then-
were just gonna, we were gonna say young children, if not to bring the young children, but we were thinking
babies or-
teenagers would be, right, they're,
Do we want to see if there are teenagers who want to babysit?
Oh.
Or a Boys and Girls Club, maybe. Maybe just even have it at Green Meadow.
Yeah.
Just have babysitting at Green Meadow. It's a
On the
great idea.
playground?
Yeah.
At the playground.
oh, wow.
Yeah,
I mean, the intriguing thing is that, again, if we get the mulch, the interior work is going to be an easy
Kids.
location for small kids and families because it's contained.
Right.
But
play and mulch at the same time.
there you
We have
go.
options.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
No, I think
Yeah.
if you put something together, I don't really feel strongly that we need to certainly review it, but just as long as it has a little
Yeah.
clarifying and we can get it out, so
Yeah.
people can.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it out tonight.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you could still just send it to us, just.
Yeah.
See, yeah,
definitely.
see.
The only other thing I'd say, Donna was looking into this, but if anybody else in the airwaves knows of any memorial plantings, trees, anything over there, please let us know. So Donna is checking that. I've been down that road. It's not fun
Oh,
to
cut down a tree
and find out that it was planted.
a significant meaning.
She thought they were just mostly in the Japanese
Yeah.
garden as well, but if there's,
That's a really good thought.
yeah.
So we're not cutting anything down inside, but there are some weedy type trees on the outside that.
Grown into trees.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to tell what's weed and what's not. I just want to make sure, for obvious reasons.
Thank you. This is really excellent. We really appreciate just everything you're all doing, and I'm very excited for these events in particular. So thank you.
A couple of things on Green Meadow, separate from the beautification. So some of these are just questions because I want to confirm. Are we, just because we've been asked at our meetings as well, are we still on track to finish the work a week from today?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Barring an act of God.
yeah.
All right, so we went through this. This came up last Friday. Every week, and it's totally legit. Because believe me, secretly, I have anxiety about this as well. Because you put yourself to it, and then something happens. And last week, same question, understandably, and then Jen thinking it was funny. It was like, oh, unless a meteor comes down, and then there's meteor showers on CNN that are hitting North of. So I freaked out about that. Anyway, I was like texting her. I was like, no, my gosh, yeah. So I mean, but I think everything is really on track, pending some unforeseen circumstance, and that none of us will have knowledge of, and the project managers all feel very reassured that. As far as what we can see, that we are opening, thank goodness. But I think until those doors are open and everyone's walking in, there's a little bit of anxiety felt to that. So, yes. So, another day, another on track.
All right. The other thing that we wanted to highlight is the RFQ for the envelope study. So I know that there's been a number of emails exchanged. We're trying to get some progress on that. Thank you very much on the structural analysis portion. As I mentioned, it's a relatively small amount in respect to the larger study.
It's important.
But yeah, it's definitely, that's certainly important. But I also
We
don't.
definitely told people in meetings that when the question was asked, how do we know that the roof is safe when the snow?
Right. Well, that's
you know what I mean? We were like, we are gonna know because we're gonna have it analyzed.
my
So we
concern
just
as
want
well.
to make sure that we,
Right. And I think the clarification, which we were recently discovering, is that the survey, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I think this is where we had the survey originally was going to include part of the structural analysis, but if the survey is not happening, we can still do the roof structural analysis independent of that, correct?
Yes, if the survey's not happening fast enough. correct.
Although, and I think the other piece is understanding about the survey as well, because it's clearly funding questions that have gone back and forth about that I'm not really close enough to understand, because I thought there was some funding, different places, and I think there's
I think ideas
So
have been discussed in terms of pieces. You had mentioned in an email that there's an additional set of money for roof repairs previously that we could potentially allocate in this capacity, which was, I think, 30,000, if I recall correctly. So we're looking at an additional 20,000 to identify. There were other funding sources that were discussed. Nothing was landed on. Again, Michelle and I are meeting with Mr. Johnson, the town administrator, tomorrow, and that is one of the many agenda items we'll be discussing.
Yeah, so we hope to get clarity on that.
So I'll continue to push because that's what you asked me to do by being in this position. The concern that I have is that what we had told the public was that we were going to get started on that envelope study right away because it's a lengthy process, and we made no promises, of course, that the work on the other end would get done anytime soon. We recognize that takes time, and it's going to require probably a special town meeting and funding sources, and we have to decide what scale we're going to invest and what the long-term plan is, all of that stuff. But I believe it was June 16th that the Board of Selectmen authorized the town to release the RFQ, not to commit funds, because they needed to release the RFQ, get the qualifications back, determine which one they want, get a cost proposal, and then go through that process. We did talk about the possible funding sources, bless you, but we didn't, you're right, we didn't commit to any funds, so there are limited steps that we can take on this side. But what I do think is important is that as we approach 2 months on this, it's something really that shouldn't take more than a day, quite frankly. It's an email to the central registry. I believe it's a $50 fee to advertise this. So I'm not pointing the finger at any one person. I also recognize we're down a lot of people. I'm not putting, again, I totally appreciate all that. But I think what we are in the luxury of right now is that because it's summer break, a lot of parents are just focused on all the things they should be. It's summer and they're having fun at the pool or the beach or on vacation. And soon they'll come back and they're going to start asking some of those questions.
Well, it's a critical piece that demonstrates, again, trust and, the expectation of where we need to be going and how we can, best if we've given inclination that we're attempting to do something and then for whatever resource limitation there is and we've sidetracked that, we just need to have a conversation, I think, about what that is and plan, but, those are discussion pieces. And I think the resource is definitely a factor, I know, in all levels, town, school, those critical folks who are part of those decision-making are no longer necessarily here, or people are wearing multiple hats through that. But it's definitely on, I think, everyone's radar, and I know being part of some of those emails, you've seen that. So,
So it's just a matter of putting it out to get bids?
Yeah, it's just an advertisement.
Okay.
That's the first step, and it's like you said, it's $50 to.
And so what, we need a list, right, of what it is that we're looking for?
Yeah, this.
Yep,
Yeah.
I wrote that
Yeah.
for you
Yeah.
in March.
Yeah.
So I believe
And it's in whose hands right now?
Greg Johnson.
that is on the
they're meeting with Greg tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think what's important, in terms of these pieces, I appreciate the pressure, obviously, in doing those components. We have had a lot of transitions, and I think what this highlights for myself, I'm a curriculum person. I know a lot about that. I don't know a lot about facilities.
Absolutely.
And we have a lot of people right now who know a lot about a lot of things, but not about facilities, including, Mr. Johnson himself. So I think what's important for us to understand in this capacity, one, we will push, we will have the conversations, we'll move forward, and again, thank you for maintaining that positive pressure. But I think this just emphasizes that these are not things that can be decided by folks who don't have the expertise in those areas, because I did not understand the division between those pieces.
Me either.
In any capacity. I thought we were looking for 50 grand as a study. As I said in the email, several thousand. That's something we have a very different conversation about in that piece. So we have had conversations with Mr. Johnson about the facilities director position and where we're moving in that direction. Both Michelle and I have been pushing Mr. Johnson very explicitly about we need to get someone on board to do some of this work, because between the three of us, this is not our area of expertise in any capacity. So
I don't have a hard hat.
we are continuing to push again tomorrow.
thank you.
We will have more answers. We can communicate out those answers in that piece. But I think, again, in terms of positions and why they're important and who should have responsibility in various areas, I think this highlights the need for a facility-specific person.
And so I think, with as we're thinking about transitions, and I know tomorrow you'll be meeting with Greg. I know at some point when Mary Jane is starting as well, trying to establish that connection so she can then kind of help pick up that.
They have that meeting scheduled.
Yeah, and then, but, you know, again, a lot of transitions, just to echo what you're talking about. So, you know, you clearly I haven't been also as close to a lot of the earlier conversations, and so there's been a lot of moving pieces. I just don't want to lose sight of the critical piece is the structural integrity of the roof, and also all the investment that we put into the inside of the building, and you know where that leaves us with not having a plan for the roof.
We should have an answer for you tomorrow on the structural components of that, which again is this much smaller portion of the envelope study.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I also think that it continues to help us with the MSBA process, so to show that we haven't just abandoned the building, that we're continuing to try to, you know, maintain it.
Can I ask a quick question? You just said to registering it on the central register, the $50, that's for the whole envelope study, correct?
Yes.
So the portion of the couple thousand for the engineering structure, I don't have to put that in.
No,
It's less than
I mean,
10,000, right? You don't
I
have
don't
to.
think I have access to the central register, but we don't have to put that piece out there. That's just the piece of calling the structural engineer that we did for the soffit. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, and actually, it would certainly warrant emergency procurement, even if you find out it was more money. But I really, if it is, don't find somebody else, because it should not cost that much.
But it is two things, though, right? Current,
Yes.
you know, safety issue, current,
Yeah.
and then planning for roof.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I see them as two, if
Yeah.
we can, two concurrent,
about
yeah,
that.
right. We need to keep having the conversation about the envelope study.
Immediate safety.
Yeah, and that piece can't, you know,
They're not independent.
to your point, that's a whole process unto itself, but the immediate concern about structural integrity of that area of the building.
It's just confused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can do both.
I think
Yeah.
the second piece more for the school committee is that, not that I really hope this doesn't happen, I don't think any of us want it to, but, and this is kind of where Natasha was going, and that is that if we were to get a seam failure, and that wing got deluged with water again, I'm not suggesting that this is some major, you know, safety catastrophe, because we got everything cleaned up and the asbestos has been removed. But boy, it would be a shame, not just that we lost everything we just invested in, but more importantly, if we lost it all and we haven't been working or doing everything we can to try to go down that road of going towards getting that root cause addressed, it'll just be that much harder a pill to swallow. So
Because then it would be emergency procurement, and then it's going to cost
crazy
a lot,
expensive, yeah.
a lot more. So if we start the process of the study, of advertising the study and going down the non-emergency, then we're.
Can I have another couple of questions for you, and I know we've had a lot of back and forth, so I just wanted to, you know, go over them a little bit to make sure. And Jennifer, I know just to publicly, so we talked about the survey piece, the AHERA designated person. I think that was the other piece that you're going to follow up with Greg about, just to make sure that, because that was Tim Golding and he's gone. And we did also talk about updating the recent abatement that was done in the basement. So Michelle is going to work on getting that uploaded to your file so we can make sure that's publicly accessible.
So
For
can I ask just really quick the questionnaire? If I send that to you, do you guys?
I upload this stuff.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
if you want it to me, I can.
I'll
Oh,
send
and
it
then
to
actually,
you.
that's something that we can transition once everyone's up to speed. The principal will then be at Green Meadow, taking over that functioning. But
Are you sorry, are you talking about the asbestos abatement in the manifest records?
well, whatever was recently done, I know that there's
In
been
the basement.
Yeah, so that, you wouldn't want to send that to us. That has to go into the AHERA report itself.
know that,
Oh,
but she
okay.
just
But that the action was done for the public to see.
Oh, gotcha. I thought you wanted us to put it in the book. Gotcha.
No, just
Okay.
to see that, because there's questions about the air handler and, you know, all of
Okay.
that. And so we just want to make sure, I don't think it's been highlighted in, specifically in the communications as clearly as the questions have been coming in.
Got it.
And so because that was a concern, we want to make sure that it's out there for folks to see what was done, when when it was done. It was done by a professional. Again, all
Gotcha.
transparency around that process. And Michelle, you mentioned the book is all up to date.
Yeah.
So
Well, the one in my office is, I have to still send it to the one in.
okay, so that.
But I
that-
just got it yesterday, so.
Yeah, and then I think that was yeah. I know. Just kidding. I think we went over. Oh, and then Jennifer, you mentioned about you put in some tickets for School Dude. I wanted to clarify that a little bit. So that was with the HVAC equipment, or the exhaust. And do you guys have access to that? Because I think there was some information about that.
So I don't. Did you give us? Okay, so we haven't used it yet. I mean, you sent me the document on how to get in, and I haven't done it yet. So I didn't know if that was like you have access now.
Yes.
I didn't know. Okay, because I know you wanted feedback on. Okay, great. So.
On that document.
Okay.
So
I just
I
wanted to
will.
connect that piece a little bit because I felt like there was a little disconnect there.
And I also I thank you for bringing that up, because I just want to understand a little bit more when you want us to enter, like if we have a question about something, or would it be like if a ticket's already in there and we would go in and say like, what's the status of this ticket, or?
So it's, you would go in with your requests for maintenance.
Okay.
So, you know.
So if it's something that was already in and we're just like asking for status, then we would just like find that ticket.
Right.
Just go in
I
and
don't
look
know
at
how
it.
many things. I know
So-
Tim had originally started entering.
Putting stuff in.
of it.
Okay.
And I wanted
So-
to question
go
this
ahead.
for a moment because I remember
Please.
this came up before about access to School Dude and who was, and I know there was a lot of back and forth, and I thought, and I could be totally remembering, but that there was not preference to have the Green Meadow Future Committee enter in information.
We wanted them to be, because basically they're the first people to be putting in requests
Yeah.
within the system. So I
That
thought
was
it
my-
was going
that
to
was
be.
my recollection.
My thought was that it would be not something that they would be entering themselves, but maybe could view, or I don't
don't
know.
think
Oh
There's
no, I
that
thought they were
access.
going to test it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well-
Okay. No. As long as everyone has the same understanding, I feel like there was a disconnect. So I wanted to make sure everyone's
Yeah.
comfortable.
Technically, as an entity of the school, really, as a committee,
Right.
as part of the school, they do have, the authorization. You really just need a school email. It's really.
Which they have.
Which they all have. So that's why we thought it was a good opportunity, almost to, kick off the use of it in the system. With the fact that we don't have a facilities person, the reason I started to giggle a little bit earlier is because Jen was asking about who was seeing, because she's been putting stuff in, and I'm like, it's me. It's coming to me. I don't.
So you put in a ticket into her next
She's
room
putting
over?
a ticket into me, and I'm like, okay, I
Just have a
I don't-
conversation.
I don't know the answers to this, but
It's logged.
so,
Now
but
it's
it's in
on.
there.
Now it's there.
Yeah. She's like, how do I get a response to this? I'm like, I don't know. Ask me.
So it's clearly some
so-
internal protocols.
Because we don't have a facilities person
What
right
does it have
now,
to do with that?
it is coming to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I've also been out for the past week. So whatever you put in there, just remember it's me who's answering you on those. So if it's not 100% clear or whatever, just give me a call.
Okay.
I'm gonna try and work with Kyle. I might send some of them to him, although officially he's not supposed. Doesn't fall under him, but here we are.
So yeah, so how does that work? Like exhaust fans, that was one of the things. So how are you fixing that? I'm wondering, do you have like a side gig? Or
Yeah,
No, I'm just wondering, like, how does that get to
become
the?
a pro at this
I
stuff
know,
now.
like-
So I've basically been asking Kyle,
Okay.
and he's giving me kind of the best that his knowledge is of it, and our steps on that. We're hoping that as soon as we get somebody that this is their thing, we'll be able to give more thorough answers and follow up on things. But I mean, they are being seen. I am seeing them. And what I can do, I'm doing. The other things I'm asking for help with,
Right. I wanna make sure the
it is
town is
something
seeing
we're
that,
going to
though.
talk about tomorrow as well.
Okay.
Because it's just, again, really solidifies our need to get somebody on board sooner than later.
Right.
Because I don't want things to, fall. I've personally invested a lot of time in this School Dude and trying to get it up and ready, and not having the ability to train the custodians, to, have somebody that's knowledgeable about the area, the different facility things, it's really hard for us, and something that I was really excited to get going and start moving forward. So, but you know, it's just another point too. We got to get a facilities person in here.
Right, so technically the process should be that a ticket is submitted, the interim facilities director, which would be Greg Johnson, would respond to that ticket and or you know, sort of delegate it out. Again, given our expertise in our areas, we're asking the folks, and so you know, that is part of the delay in getting the answers, because we have had such a high turnover in the facility staff in that capacity. But now they are all logged within the system. We will be able to track sort of timeliness on that component. And one of the things that we're discussing tomorrow is the potential hiring of a facilities director position, so that we can get moving on that and have someone on board who can immediately answer the questions rather than 2 or 3 people removed.
Right. Because I mean, exactly. I mean, entering in is great, but then Michelle, like, clearly, like, she doesn't have any better answer than, you know, right, you know, and again, they connect to the town.
And I think in terms of the Green Meadow Future Committee, the idea initially was for y'all to help us test drive the school dude in that capacity. But the other thing that I think is important, particularly regarding these, is that you can see what has been entered and sort of progress along there. And I know Tim entered a variety of items within there, Tim Goulding, when he was in there. So I think that's the other component in the value of you all having access, is that instead of, you know, having 2 or 3 people removed to ask what is the progress on that, you know, it's sort of immediately
Just
there.
log in and look.
And then I think over time what we want to do is obviously transition all of you out of the Green Meadow Future Committee, out of sort of submitting tickets in their capacity, but you would still be able to see progress in those.
Yeah. Okay, and I apologize, because I know, Colleen, you sent me that, and I just haven't had time. So
Really, you don't have anything else?
I'm gonna get my husband back from the Ukraine first, and then I can do it. So
A couple of very quick things, and don't feel like you need to. Some of these I'm just saying so you're aware. You don't need to respond to all this, because I recognize a lot of this is facilities, it's technical. I'm not suggesting that the solutions are going to come here or that anybody here can directly impact it, but. One of them is that so we still have a lot of equipment in the building that is not running, or not running on the right schedules. And by equipment, I mean exhaust or ventilation or fresh air. It's the summertime, there's limited use of the school right now, but it's really important that we try to get those on before school starts. At a minimum, I'd recommend, especially where we're in the swing seasons, to just get them manually overridden on. I mean, worst case scenario, you're exhausting and putting fresh air more than you need to. Obviously, before the heating season gets here, we need to rectify that, but at least we'll get some air moving. And it's important that the schedules are aligned with any time the building's occupied. So especially for assembly areas, if you have large amounts of students either in the gym or the cafeteria, if the air handling unit is not running, then there's no fresh air going in and there's no stale air going out. Carbon dioxide levels go up, people get tired, people get headaches.
That's one of the list items too. So you guys, take
So,
it.
I will tell you honestly, I did talk to Kyle actually about that today, and he was calling. Who would he call?
HVAC?
HVAC. He told me the name of the people.
All right.
But he was calling them to have them come in next week to take a look at that. So
because
that is something.
Josh volunteered to look at the system, and I don't know if the login.
Very, very antiquated system from what he was telling me.
He knows it.
Not surprised.
I know it well.
I know Jamie kind of has an idea about it.
I remember Kyle when we had that walkthrough, like they had a really offline, and I think Kyle was not really sure exactly because he was asking Jamie, and so there's.
I mean, that's not his building,
right?
I mean, thankfully he was a part of the school district before he went over the town side, but it was the high school, which has much more advanced technology than Green Meadow did. So I do think it's something that Jamie normally does, but I know that Kyle said he was calling the HVAC people to come in. He was also calling the people to clean the vents.
Yep.
As well. So that was going to be done next week. Well, he was calling them in next week. I don't know if it was officially going to be done next week or whatever.
Right.
Yep.
But
action's being taken.
yes.
And in fairness, Kyle reported that out to us at our last Green Meadow Future Committee meeting, so I just credit where credit's due. Kyle said that, so but I just want to make sure that you guys were all aware of that as well. And last thing, very, very briefly. I've noticed that teachers are starting to get set back up in some of the classrooms. I don't think it's actual teachers coming in for the start of the school year. It's probably summer programs are using some of the classrooms. And one of the things I've noticed is that stuff is making its way on top of and in front of the univents in those occupied classrooms again. So the custodians have hung signs, but they literally have covered the signs up. So I took some pictures today. Yeah. So, but hopefully our IAQ fact sheets that we'll be sharing will help with that. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you. So, we are, just make sure. Okay.
Clear
great.
gov.
So, next we are going to talk about, ClearGov, and I'm going to give that one to Natasha.
Okay, all right. So I know this has been a couple of conversations. We had this on, and at one point we had that awesome discount that was presented. Is
I
that
still think that's
it's
still
still on the
available.
table?
Yeah,
Okay,
yep,
great.
yep.
And then there was conversation about how do we fund it, and then we talked about the school committee budget, and we realized there's nothing there. Actually, we're negative last year.
Our world.
Right, and then Jennifer, you and I had a conversation about possibly other lines, and I just wanted to see if that, so are we, where do we land with that?
So if you choose to, what we did is we looked at the superintendent contractual services line. There was an item in there for $2,400 for a facilitator for a school committee meeting that we had last spring, or last winter, I suppose it was, that we hopefully will not need that piece again. So that $2,400
Done.
would be available, which would more than cover the cost, $1,167.75. So if you choose to, you could use those funds or direct us to use those funds for the ClearGov component.
And I just wanted to make sure, because so this is what we had, it would just, and do you all use this as well sometimes behind the
I
scenes?
mean, we use the components, we use the front-facing components that are the same that everyone has access to. If we were to pay additional money, we would get some additional resources where we could dive deeper into the data.
I'll just give a little, I sat through a couple of different demos, thank you. My mind is like, sat through a couple of different demos. A lot of what they offer on the back end, although very beneficial, we actually already get the use out of our software for those things. It was like a budgeting piece, almost identical to what we already use.
The front end stuff is really
But the front end stuff is the informational stuff for the community, I think, and it summarizes what you could find at the Department of Ed's comparative sites, but I think it summarizes it fairly well, and it's something that the community does appreciate. It makes it easier for me when people ask me questions. I can say, go to ClearGov, and you'll see it all right there.
I know
because there was multiple times, I think even Lydia, where I sent you like a bunch of different links to go into the Department of Ed to gather. It's the same information,
just
but it's more.
compiled.
This is more readily accessible. Yeah. So.
And are we thinking that we could have it? Because I was, from a community perspective, like having it on like the homepage or something
That's what I
that.
was going to ask is how people access it.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Districts do
They
it two
send a
ways.
link, and we can attach the link to wherever we want. So if we want to attach it to our website, someone can click on our website, and then they can click on the link to the ClearGov. Or they can individually look it up. They can do Maynard ClearGov, and it will come up as well. Maynard Public Schools ClearGov.
Yeah, because I know I have not used it, but I know Mary and Birch used to use it all the time. I prefer to go to the DESE, the Department of Revenue.
Yeah,
Department of
What
Education.
so for that's the price for 1 year, right? Though
1 year.
that's and so do we know that it would be the same next year, or do we have to renegotiate?
I think we would have to renegotiate. I think she was giving us this discount because she's a
Maynard
Maynard resident and knows, kind of our story right now, and really, and they're a Maynard company.
Right.
She also has kids. The rep has children.
Yeah, they're in the mill, I think, right?
Yeah, they're in the mill, and she has children that are in Green Meadow. So I think she understands that and was willing to work with us. Normally it's about $5,000,
Right.
so this is a significant discount. I don't think that we would be continuing to get this discount moving forward, but another year of it is better than nothing, I think.
Right. I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve the funding indicated to continue with ClearGov for into the next year.
In the amount of,
What's the amount? 1,000.
$1,678.75.
1,000.
$1,167.
No, because that would be.
Whatever the amount that Michelle is saying.
I don't know what that line is.
Okay, $1,678.
The proposed amount from Allison,
Yes.
right? Is
Yes,
that what?
that's
okay.
perfect.
Colleen can put it in.
Yeah, yes.
Colleen, make something up.
Okay.
$1,678.
Second, okay. Any discussion?
I would just want to add to that we're reallocating funding that was in a different line item, so that
Yeah.
we're clear on that we're
Right.
reallocating
Yes,
from.
it will be transferred from superintendent contracted services.
Right, so no mediator, right? It was for the,
It was for the mediator for the February school committee meeting.
$1,167.
I'm
You're
sorry.
right.
Okay.
I think-
So, this I was gonna address later in, members' comments, but I was at the budget subcommittee meeting last night, and we have not great news, and there is,
we have a motion on, do we do anything with the?
well, no, this is
We're in
part of my
Oh,
discussion.
okay, part of the discussion, okay.
So there's a shortfall, and that was unanticipated. And I think that we need to be extra fiscally prudent this year. And if it doesn't look like this is something that's going to continue, like year after year, and we can't guarantee that we're going to get the discount or be able to afford this, I almost feel like we just nip it in the bud now and we don't spend the extra money, because we're going to need every dollar we have. So,
I would also bring up that, the other thing in consideration in my mind, and I'm very torn on this, is that we have with the superintendent search this year, and where that money is coming from. So, and that is also an additional expense.
And whereas, I mean, yes, it's nice to have it on one click, and I use it all the time, but it is accessible to people. They just have to dig a little deeper.
Well, I mean, again, just one of the issues that we've all heard is that information is hard to find, and so
Yeah,
I
but so is
agree.
money.
I agree that if I could just finish, I agree that it is easily accessible for people who want to dig through. And again, not knowing your conversations from the subcommittee, so this is just independent of that. Totally agree, but I also want to recognize that there is a need for transparency and understanding of the budget for our district that people have been very vocal about and not having, and so if there's another way that we are able to meet that need with the expenses in a better way, I don't know.
I mean, it's broken down in the budget book.
But that's where I know, but that's clearly not been enough where it's accessible for our public to digest in a way how it currently is. So is there a better way that without this that we can?
Just to say, it's almost the exact same information that's in the budget book that's on ClearGov.
For the layperson, I'm.
But I'm saying even the way it's presented is almost, because I've actually gathered from that. Go ahead.
That information on our website?
That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I want something that's accessible for folks where they're not having to dig for places to find information. Yes. Hi.
Hi. Dave Krijgen. I know this is normally
Wait
not
a minute.
typical.
I just want to just before you.
Go ahead.
I just want to point out. So one thing that you're saying is that the book, the way you create it, it's the same
It's
as
similar.
What
There
Clear
are
has.
some things that are on ClearGov that I don't put in the book because it's not really relevant to like our every year budget.
The percentage comparisons of
Yeah,
the
the
spending line to other area districts.
Yeah.
similar districts. That's not something that we put into the document.
Right.
The diving in of the various line items to looking at professional development costs and understanding what percentage of those are teacher stipends, and again, the percentage of our use of teacher stipends for professional development compared to other districts. That is not something that is in the budget book.
Right.
However, all of the line items associated, and again, the visuals of how they are presented are very similar. We have had discussions of how we can move the business page more front and center, or the budget pages more front and center, so folks can find them. But the information, it is being presented and is being shared. Similarly to the finance committee asking for demographic information of our students, something that's in there that we discuss annually. So the information's there. The question is, do you want to identify funding for folks to be able to access it more easily? I think that's the question.
Yeah, and at any moment in time, is it the same information at any moment in time?
Submitted end of year, I believe.
Okay,
right?
so
End of year
it's
report.
always the same information.
It's static.
Static.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not changing.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to let us finish that line, and then I can recognize you to go ahead and say what you would like to say.
Sure. So I think the last comment might not be correct. I don't think it's static information in ClearGov, right? So ClearGov will pull in up-to-date information each year, right? So let me just go through a couple of use cases. We all recognize that the budget for the school district of Maynard, we all would like to see more money, right? The question is, how do you go about arguing for more money, right? Either from the town, from us as residents through taxes, and or from state support, etc. A comparison to, here are 5 districts similar to ours, and by the way, here's how much more they're spending per student, and here's how they're going about getting that funding, right? Oh, guess what? I'm making this up. Burlington gets $2,000 more per student, and 80% of that funding comes from this type of aid, from this type of, etc. Right? Without that information, without that, we kind of end up in the same circular motion where we've been, right? Underfunding, special ed is underfunded, this is underfunded, facilities is underfunded, we need more staff, and it always comes back to cut or level funding. I think we all recognize that level funding is probably not the way going forward, and certainly not below level funding. So personally, I've played a little bit. I've seen the public version of ClearGov. I don't know if the complete school committee, as well as the people that have, let's say, worked with the platform so far, really know all the functionality, nor what is on the roadmap for that product. So specifically, what if we could understand how much more funding different schools get for special education, right? Or what percentage of their population has 504 plans, IEP plans? What kind of funding is made available? How do they obtain that funding? What's made available for? And you can fill in the blanks, right? Straight comparisons to other school districts, understanding how they obtain their funding. Newton, for example, 32% of their students has a 504 plan, right? Now that's well above what you would expect. Are they probably gaming the system a little bit? Yes. Are they obtaining funding accordingly? Yes. Is it illegal? No. Am I suggesting we do the same? No, but know how to play the game, right? So I think personally, this is my personal 2 cents, $1,600 on a school budget of tens of millions of dollars, unless I'm mistaken, is a very small number. It is $1,600. You're absolutely right. But my guess is you could easily get 10x, 20x the value of that if we use the data in that system appropriately. And we make the argument to get more state support and make more state funding, right? We have the issue that money leaves our district because of charter schools. Okay, well, is that a comparison data point that we can get from?
You can.
Right.
All of the data points that you have said are
All of it is
on
available, right?
All on the Department of Ed's website. You can easily go in and compare to other districts right on their website.
Correct.
You can pick all the other districts you want to do your comparison to and what statistics you want to compare to.
Right.
So, and that's exactly where ClearGov pulls their information from.
So I'm not disputing that they are actually producing any data that's not publicly available.
Right.
I think the key value prop that I think a company like
Access to information.
ClearGov is simply producing is they realize that people don't have time. And we are clearly understaffed in every department, right? So if you want to make a case that says, look, I want to get more data, or I want to make this case, but I need this data, oh, you can find it here, 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 and here. Oh, I'd like to compare it to 10 different schools. Okay, spend another 5 hours. Or you can click.
It says as available as it is on ClearGov.
Exactly.
But what I'm
Exactly.
saying, it doesn't take, it's the same amount of clicks to get that information on ClearGov as it is to go to the Department of Ed's website and get the information there on the district profiles.
I go to the Department of Ed website to do these comparisons, to compare with area districts, to compare with demographically similar districts, because it's there. Now, again, this is part of my job.
Well, I was
This
gonna
is
say, like,
what I
this is
do.
part of, like,
And
what
I think your
you
question
do
is in terms of the readiness and availability of the document, of the data, whether or not that is something that you want to allocate the $1,600 to do. I think that is the question. In
Right.
terms of that, but in terms of your professional staff using data to inform our decision making, we do use that data, and we use it pretty regularly in our conversations. So.
And how far has the school district used, let's say, the public-facing benefits of a ClearGov, i.e. you're doing larger projects like Green Meadow, i.e. capital planning, updates to the community, pictures, progress reports?
Your ClearGov?
I don't think
ClearGov has that
the module,
capability.
they don't have the project.
What the $1,600?
You don't get that for the
We don't
1,600.
get that
Okay.
whole background.
Okay, that's an additional
where-
component.
Exactly,
Okay.
that's why I'm questioning it, because
Okay.
we wouldn't get that additional service, and the other stuff is available through DESI, so.
Okay. That's my 2 cents.
But thank you.
Thank you. I know the other piece was, which was originally presented, was about, again, costing of her school committee professional or development, and I think there was some conversation about that being less for this year, specific to attending conferences in November, and I know that that was a bigger cost that was incurred on the school committee's budget, and which might be less again.
But we didn't register, so we missed the deadline for the discount.
I don't know if I haven't talked to anyone.
Oh, it has?
Yeah, I think you
The
still
early
did.
discount has been extended to August 15th.
Right.
Nice.
Right, so I don't know if anyone has. We didn't talk about that, we haven't talked about that piece
Are you
as
thinking
well.
in terms of using some of that money for?
I mean, I'm not gonna go to it, but I know last year, looking at the, who had, it was a significant chunk of the cost with,
I think a lot of the school committee budget is eaten up actually by your dues.
like 5,000 was,
5,700, I believe, is
Almost all of it gets eaten up by dues.
right, so everything else was over,
Right.
which ate out of other pieces.
areas, correct.
Right.
We have identified an area for this. It really is, like Jennifer keeps saying, it's your choice on if that's what you want us to allocate these funds towards.
I'm thinking that we should do it and really keep track of, because I, for one, I have said, I haven't used it, but it is a good resource.
I've used it before, and I find it valuable, like, it's more user-friendly than DESI.
Yes, I 100% agree with
Right.
that.
I
It's
mean,
definitely
It's
more
something
user
that goes
friendly.
to Mary's
Yeah,
thought.
no, so I mean, if everybody thinks that they would actually use it, then it would be worth the money to try it again. Of course, the other side of me says, if we didn't do it this year, I have to believe that they would offer it again next year to get us back.
Right.
Get us back there, so, I'm not sure which way to go.
Do you have a question as far as for subcommittee work? Budget subcommittee, and considering, as Dave was mentioning, for kind of considering advocating and helping them to understand, do you think, is there any benefit and over?
Again, I would just make a concerted effort this year to use it if we're gonna invest the money.
I mean, we could even use portions of it for the budget book if it's something that.
'Cause it's similar layout and how it,
When I tell you, a lot of the stuff that we put in the budget book is, and ClearGov isn't the first to kind of get these metrics and put them together as business officials. We've been doing this for a couple of years, and all comparing. If you look at our budget book, it kind of resembles Hudson's budget book because I'm extremely close with the business manager there. Pieces of it, are with other districts. We all talk together, but we all know the visual piece. We know what we have to put out there to help break down the budget better for people. So if it's something that we can use, we can easily take that data and transfer it into the budget book. It surely would make my job easier from creating that information.
it has other additional resource
But,
uses as well.
I don't want to say do it because it makes my job easier, because I can get the information in other places and continue doing what I've been doing, so.
Right. I mean, for me personally, I think it's more of the community, not so much my or our internal use alone. I think it's what community access or ease of access to information. That was my intent of exploring it.
Well, then we should get the word out if we can access it, 'cause I'm not.
Well, I would say like having it on the home. If you have it available, then it,
There are two ways districts use it. One is that they have, and this is what we had discussed, having our internal budget data more readily available because it is more detailed and more complete. And then there's a button that says link to ClearGov, and then you click on that and go directly to our site. But you are also able to embed it directly into your webpage so that there's a ClearGov page that people can go directly to. Other districts have done that, as we discussed, I believe, at the last meeting where this came up. We just want to caution that a lot of the information that's in the budget book goes into further detail because this is just one sort of set of numbers, and there's a significant other.
And it's
amount of money.
a previous year as well.
mm-hmm.
It's always
The expense.
1 year behind. Yep.
Is it also, can you also do stuff in there, having to do with, you can do stuff with special education, like all that data?
In terms of like
Not to the extent of what the Department of Ed gives you for the breakdown of special ed data. If you're looking at our district profile and you go to special ed, like students in special ed, there is a lot more data points there on the district profile on DESE than there is within the ClearGov.
Okay.
In the ClearGov, they'll give you your general data points and compare those to the general data points of the other districts. But if you wanted specifics, like the DESE website for special ed breaks it down, per grade, how many kids with an IEP, what the percentage is in this grade, and blah, blah, blah. So it's a little bit more detailed. But I do believe ClearGov has some portion of it. I actually haven't explored that piece, to be honest.
The other thing that we could do too is you could invite the vendor to come in and do a presentation at a school committee meeting so that you could directly ask these questions and look at the detailed pieces. So if you're feeling like you want to know more about how the product works, maybe take some time to take a look at it. It's certainly, I don't think they're going anywhere in terms of this piece. So that is certainly something you could do on your next agenda, is to have ClearGov come in and do a presentation and do a visual and answer all of these questions.
Should we table the motion and then consider?
Well, the person who made the motion, you could choose to withdraw it, and then we could move to the next agenda.
Okay.
Instead, we'll just.
Or you could table it to go. There's two different ways. It doesn't really matter.
We could just table it up to.
On a future agenda.
So I think that's defer. So withdraw the motion to vote until for a future agenda item until we get a demo from and see if we can arrange a demo and when that might be from the vendor.
I also recommend that each one of us goes onto the DESE site between now and then and just see. It is pretty user friendly. Just to see.
I use it all the time.
Right, just to see, so that you come in knowledgeable about that and then see.
Right.
Well, I'd like
Again,
them to be able to tell
a lot
us.
of money, but, but yeah.
I also want to know if there's user metrics too, because if we were.
We did talk about that. I think they right?
They can get it for us. I don't know that we've asked for our current user
Because
metrics.
if we were going to pilot it for a year, see if it's useful. I think we want to track
Yeah,
it.
I think that would be like, how are we? What are we looking for to gain out of it? Like, and track that, and again, its usefulness. So it's helping with the budget or whatever. Then that would be
How much of the community actually utilizes it.
Right.
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 Very
Okay.
I can definitely set that up, or Jennifer's been in contact with her as well, so either one of us can set it up. Let us know what, for the 22nd? Okay.
Right?
Well, whatever. If she's
available for the
so
22nd?
pending availability.
Yes.
Or the 12th. I know the 22nd looks pretty. It's filling up already, so I don't know if maybe the 12th might be also. Yeah. A consideration.
Can we wait that long? Okay. I didn't know if there was a specific time frame.
I don't believe so. I believe she's really invested in our town and our district and trying to get us, what she believes we need. So I don't think
We don't
it's
have a quote with an expiration on that.
right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So that will be until
So next on the agenda is a music program update. So in relation to this, we are looking to, at this point, look at a timeline because we've had between some vacations and time away from the office. We knew that we weren't able to get further information at this point from.
So the timeline in terms of the music program remains what we had spoken about and communicated to the public at the end of the school year. Mr. Barth has interviewed and designated a person to hire for the .2 position. I will be meeting with that person tomorrow and hopefully get that component squared away. The schedules will be rearranged when Mr. Barth is back, I believe next week, and we will communicate schedule changes to parents in the middle of August, which was what we had indicated. So we remain on that target timeline.
Great, thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. Give thanks to Mike as well.
Absolutely.
All right. I think we gained back some time with that one. Anything else on that?
Nope.
Okay, very good. All right, so we're going to welcome Mary Jane Mixon. So I guess I was not able to be at the meeting because I was in Denver, Colorado at the time when they were discussing and voting upon you. We'd love to have you come up, and I'd love anyone that wanted to say anything ahead of that.
Welcome to Maynard.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. I'm very excited to begin collaborating with everybody. There's a lot of notes in my agenda right now, so I'm going to have to make a list. But I just wanted to say thank you. I've been in education about 29 years, and I've started my professional practice at a urban school in Springfield, where I taught English in middle school, and then high school I transitioned to social studies. So that being said, I've spent a lot of time at the upper level. In the last couple of years I've spent at the middle and elementary level because I really wanted to be more rounded in my education. I don't want to spend the whole 15 minutes because it's getting late, but I do want to let you know that I'm very excited. I really am. My resume, you all have a copy of my resume, so I do want to let people know that are watching that I have lots of experience in administration. I was an assistant superintendent, so I've done everything from climate and culture, fiscal responsibility, facilities. I do have quite a bit of experience with roof projects, so
You're hired. Okay. So we did that already.
I've been through 3 buildings with 3 different roofs, so I think, I have, I don't know the minutia, but I do know how to get the process started, so I do feel comfortable with that. So I've been in lots of building projects. I spent the vast majority of my career in career technical education, so vocational schools, although I was an academic person on the administrative side, so I do feel like I'm quite proficient in some of those skills that you might need help with. My best attribute that I've learned throughout the years have been as a mediation coordinator in Springfield. I was a mediation coordinator, and as a result of that, I became an assistant principal. And I think those mediation skills and those skills that I've learned with conflict resolution have really helped me become a better communicator. Anybody who will tell you, I was getting very nervous.
Oh, don't be.
I don't like to talk about myself, but many people would say that my best quality would be communication. I'm very transparent. I have what you see is what you get. I'm very collaborative. It's just too hard for me not to be that way. In generally, I think everybody has a stake in school. I'm dedicated to students. I've spent my whole life working with them. I don't have anything else to say about that. Professionally, this is a great opportunity for me, and I do thank you all for letting me be part of this, and I'm very excited to jump right in on Wednesday, meeting with the facilities person. Did you say it was Tim? Mr. Johnson.
Greg Johnson. He's the town administrator.
I'm very looking forward to working with him.
He is the facilities guy apparently right now as well.
Right
So
now. He's our
that's
facilities
one
person.
of his many hats right now.
So professionally, I think I'm ready for this next step, and I do appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do this. Personally, I am a parent of 3 grown children, so I'm very proud of them. And my husband, I've been married 27 years. He's awesome, so thank God. But I do have 3 children, and 2 in college, and 1 graduated, so I'm very happy that they're supportive, and it's time for me to do something for me. And they're not around, so instead of following them, carting them around everywhere, it's time to focus on my education and helping other kids now. Done my duty with them. They're great kids. They've done a good job, so I'd like to spread that to everybody else. That's all I have.
So, how can we help you?
I think I sat with Jen earlier today, and a lot of you, administration, and some of the school committee earlier, and getting a handle on what's happening. Sitting at the school committee meeting has been very helpful. I think just getting around, meeting everybody, and I did talk to some people in the back, and I think when I go around to visit the schools, which I will do weekly, I'll visit every school at least once a week, visit classrooms. Just to visit, I will not be there to evaluate. That's not my role at this point. I really just want to establish community, be collaborative, and get that feeling of trust back in place. Because I do think that when somebody new comes on board, they don't know me. This is they have a stake in the district, and I want to be part of that. So I really want to get myself out there and let them know that I'm here to help and see what I can do. So I think what I need to do is really evaluate what's going on, have some focus groups, meet with them, work with them. What do we want as a community? I think get all the stakeholders involved, get the parents, meet with the Green Meadow folk, Future
Committee.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, meet with them, get us on board with that. Really, I will be here on the 11th to help. I can't go near the poison ivy, but I'll do anything else, okay? I can shovel the wood chips or whatever, but I can't do the poison ivy, sorry. But other than that, I will do everything I can to make this fractures come together. You know, I don't want any more big fissures. We need to get together, and we need to look at the budget. We really need to be cognizant of the programs. We need to move forward, but we can't go backward by doing that. So I think those are. So what I'll need from you is I'll just need your support to move forward. You know, tell me what you need. Don't be afraid to say I want you to do this, and I'll get it done. I have no problem doing that. So
I'm sure this came up, Mary Jane. We're working on our operational protocols too
Yep.
as a board, and once we have our goals and priorities discussion, we're immediately discussing. We should be looping in our interim superintendent to really look at moving that forward, because everyone is very motivated and interested in exactly what you're talking about. So
agreed. I had a big thing to say, but no, when I get up here, then you're just. But no, I look forward to working with everybody. And again, transparency is my motto. Certainly, stop in, visit me, students, parents, whatever you need to say. I'm an open door, and I'll work with everybody. Everybody has something to say, and it's very important what they have to say. Everybody may not agree, but everybody needs to be heard, and that's what we need to do.
It's very true. Very true.
That's what I do.
Community.
Yeah.
Do you plan on having a meet and greet, Mary Jane?
That was one of my questions. Yeah, I was going to say I'd like to do that.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah, so I think what we're going to do, we're starting on Wednesday.
Yeah.
She and I can communicate about what that looks like in terms of her entry plan and the meetings she would like to have with the various stakeholders. I know that was a big part of what we spoke about during the interview process. So that will be a process that we will be working on together, but with.
Yeah, and I do appreciate you letting me start on the 7th. But we will be. Absolutely, that is my priority. I made you a couple meet and greets, to be honest with you. One for during the day, one in the afternoon.
Really great to have
Exactly.
one in the morning and one at night.
Yep,
so.
yep. And then again, I'll be out in the community doing, some of this beautification and things like that. So I'll be, whatever.
And I think that, and you've said this, but, just to echo and reinforce that is presence. I think that part of what all the schools really will appreciate in high school, the students, is just seeing, relationship building is not only when someone's coming in when there's an issue happening. It's, saying hello so they can see, who our leader of our district is, and really, I think that's where one area that we've certainly are looking to get a little bit more robust in, and also with the union leaders as well, having strategically planned meetings with them that are not just in response to an issue, but are more like a dedicated time, and however that works for you. But for me, I think that would be important so that there are channels that are available, and if the discussion needs to be had, it's something to look forward to. If there's no discussion that needs to be had, then you don't have it that day, but at least it's there. But I think a lot of what is the leadership or relationship building on all the levels. So I really appreciate what you will be able to bring within that.
I always met with my union reps in my districts that I've been in. I've actually, on Monday mornings, we would have coffee. So we do a lot of preemptive work before. That was something that we did, that I did personally. And there have been wonderful conversations. And I think we want to work together. They want what's best for the students. We want what's best for the students. And again, everything we do is in the best interest of the students. So I will never make a decision without that consideration. That's the number one consideration.
Well, and we're all going to make hard decisions are inevitable in our future. I think they're that much easier when we're all at least have a good foundation of a relationship. So thank you. Welcome again.
All right.
Very excited.
Yes.
I'm very excited.
Yes.
Thank you.
Review with Tim.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Anything else for me?
Anything else?
Oh, good.
Great, thanks.
Thank you so much for
Feeling being in
staying.
the hot
Yes.
Good. All right, so next we have what I like to call a super search firm comparison. Mary Brownlee put together a comparison table for us.
There were some extra copies too, right, Colleen, because somebody in the audience wants them. So we have the 3 different companies. We've got NASDAQ, Massachusetts Association of School Committees, and then HYA Associates. So I actually started with NASDAQ because they were the most specific. So I used them as the template and then used the same information going across, trying to keep it pretty consistent. NASDAQ we have utilized numerous times in the past, and actually we have a relationship with them right now. That they do our population and Michelle? NASDAQ, yeah.
Yep.
So as a result of our existing relationship with them, they're giving us a 20% discount. So the numbers that you see, the costs reflect that. They're net of that discount. They did say that it's they'll honor that.
That's on the
October
3rd
1st.
page, right? Yeah, we go.
But yeah, it's like the last page.
Yeah. Got it.
So the only one that was a little more vague, and I'm not as enamored with, it was the HYA. First of all, because it's $24,000.
Yeah.
And they were vague.
I wasn't impressed at all.
So
No, and I emailed them because I saw that they had this clause, which I thought was like, okay, it said a price comparison or price match. So I had emailed them saying, hey, what's your last and final? Because your number is, pretty much way out of the, range. And they hadn't gotten back to me.
But even if they did come down in price, I still don't feel like they offered the same degree of support.
It wasn't a significant service
Yeah.
difference for the cost,
Yeah.
right?
And I also get a little nervous because they're out of Illinois. I know that they've got local reps in that, but I just,
Yeah.
wasn't feeling it for them. So then it came down to NASDAQ and Massachusetts Association of School Committee. We have relationships with both because thanks to the workshops, Dorothy Presser, who would be the rep from Mass Association of School Committee, we've been doing the workshops with her, so she's a known entity, and she, I think we've been pretty pleased with her. I personally, so that is the most reasonable, the Mass Association of School Committee. And again, they do very similar things. The only thing that was interesting was when I was doing NASDAQ, they said that they would not be there for the actual interviews. And my recollection was that they have been in the past. And so when I called them, I spoke with Art, who would be our rep, and he said, absolutely, they will do it. What they do first is they sit down with us and figure out exactly what it is that we're looking for. But they work with you. And he said, we found more times than not that the search committee does not want the rep from NASDAQ there because you don't want to give the impression that NASDAQ is pushing it in one direction or another, that it's really the community. But he said, absolutely, we will be there if you want to. And the only reason I asked is because Mass Association School Committee said that they would be there for the interviews.
Right.
But virtually they're one and the same. So again, NASDAQ, I've been involved in 2 2 searches with them, both for superintendent over the last 18 years, and they've done a really good job. They're a known entity. Dr. Kennedy works for them. He said to say hi. He was one of our superintendents, like 4 superintendents ago. He's still just a sweet man. But anyway, so, but the cost is what everybody's gonna be looking for, huh?
My pages aren't in order. I'm
She's out of order.
trying to
She's out of order.
figure out.
So, go to the last page with the numbers, that's what everybody's gonna be looking for. So and again, the numbers for NESDEC do reflect that 20% discount. So, their total fix is virtually $14,560. They will do a search brochure for us for an additional $1,450, which was included in the Mass Association of School Committee. And then if we wanted to do hard copy ads, I can't imagine us wanting to do that. They're going to do 6 focus groups for us, but if we wanted additional ones over and above that, it'd be $365 each. I have to believe that 6 is going to be sufficient. And then they would do a half-day workshop with us if we would want them to for $1,250. So basically, they are.
What's the half-day workshop?
The half-day workshop is new superintendent. Underneath it says new superintendent school committee to build foundation for effective and collaborative approach to school district government. So after the superintendent,
After we hire them, then we'd have a workshop. I see that.
And I wanted to point out that they had some things like for mask, because they offer that things that were without a fee.
Yeah.
right, that's what I was saying.
That's
Yeah,
true.
they
Right.
are more comprehensive for, their fee is the $9,500 plus a maximum of $2,500 for expenses. They spelled it out, but they said between 2 categories it'd be an additional $2,500 maximum. And that's for like travel and printing and that kind of thing. So, Mass Association School Committee is virtually $12,000 versus approximately $16,000 for NESDEC. Because again, the Mass Association of School Committee, they'll do hard copy ads if we want them to in the Boston Globe, Education Weekly. Again, I'm thinking that we don't really need that, so that's sort of where we are. The one thing that I thought was interesting with all of them was that they said that if for some reason the final candidate,
The warranty?
the warranty, that if they involuntarily or voluntarily leave within 2 years, that each of those groups will actually do another search for us. They'll help us with just the fixed cost would be the only thing that we have to pay for to get a new candidate. And the one thing that I did really like about the HYA, it's in here someplace, was that they would not basically
I noticed.
poach our superintendent for 3 years.
They had like a 3-year.
Which I haven't seen that before. I'd
that was
like
pretty
to
cool.
incorporate that into any of the contracts that we
Yeah.
sign, by the way.
Yeah.
Because that's, we're
Yeah.
gonna be trying to poach somebody, so, so I really, that's.
Yeah, I think that was the only thing that really kind
That
of.
was the thing that I really liked about it. Utilize this.
Yeah.
So,
But one of the things, though, I was saying earlier is like aside from the cost of the different comparisons, what Mask offers for free was the workshop. That's what I was trying. Yeah. So
we
like,
also do workshops.
Like, yeah.
We've been doing workshops.
but the superintendent, a follow-up workshop to help build team with superintendent and school committee, that's a free service. Well, we pay dues.
Yeah, we pay for the dues to be able to have it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so aside from
We're already paying for that, so.
Right.
You pay for that in any case. Yeah.
right, so really, some of the things we're getting for free really is because of our dues.
Right, yeah, and they did, Mass Association did say that even if it was in the print somewhere, that even if they aren't the one that does it, they will help us in any capacity that they can.
Yeah.
Because we do pay dues, pay dues to them, so, but otherwise, again, it was, it's really very similar between the 2 of them. So.
One thing I did notice that, well, I don't know if this makes any difference. Mask rates the candidates. NESDEC did not seem to rate the candidates. So, if you look at,
Where does it say that?
when you
Was
go
it on the
down
contract
to
or the?
choosing, assist in interviewing applications. Mass will screen candidates and rate them based on desired criteria and recommend candidates for interviewing.
Right.
NASDAQ will help with developing the rating scales
Yeah.
and planning of interview techniques, but they wouldn't be the ones to do that rating.
They have done that in the past. So again, I think that's something that we could talk to them about. They seem to be really workable from, again, this one conversation. And just from my past experience with them, what they did before was to go through, so they receive, both of them will receive all the applications. And what NASDAQ did was that they made sure that they were certified, that they had the right certification, and then based on the criteria that we're looking at, sort of similar to what we just did with the interim superintendent, they would look at the candidates to see if they filled the criteria that we're looking for. And they presented to us the ones that they thought we should interview. However, they did have them all available for us, and we all would go into, you know, to the office, and we went through them. And inevitably, each one of us would have at least one or two outliers that we'd say, gee, this one looks really good too, can we include them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, so they did initial filtering, but then we also tended to bring back other ones that we thought would be worth interviewing. So.
The only other thing that I saw that was that seems maybe substantively different, besides the price, was NASDAQ seemed to specifically say that they were sending to, when they were sending out the posting, that they were doing it to superintendents, assistant superintendents with similar characteristics to Maynard.
Right, yeah.
So it seemed like it was a little more targeted.
They, Massachusetts, through New England, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, you're right, with characteristics similar to Maynard. Again, probably maybe, small school systems or that kind of a thing. But they also, what I found, again, with them before, was that they actually, and I'm sure Mass Association School Committee does this too, they actually reach out to people that they think might, rather than just waiting and being the receiving end, they actually try and reach out to people that they think might be a good fit.
That's why they don't have a no poaching clause.
That's why, exactly.
Okay.
And it, so is this like the online survey, Mask? Does NASDAQ? I didn't see it on NASDAQ, but I see it on Mask.
They were NASDAQ would, I think it's in there someplace. They will do
We'll
the
conduct
online
focus
survey
groups
also.
or online.
The
for
only one
Mask.
that didn't seem to do that was HYA. Yes, because that was a big deal. They do the focus groups, but also have
Online.
surveys for people.
So I didn't see that here on NASDAQ.
The thing about the brochure, I wish I brought the one that we did. We do a lot of the work for the brochure, regardless of which company that we go with. So, because the brochure that they send out would have, the characteristics of the community, the school, the schools, and things like that. Our vision, things of that nature. So even though they put it together, they need us to work on it. So
Right.
for obvious reasons.
Do we feel like we're getting a $4,000 difference in service though with NASDAQ? That's kind of what we're.
Again, I'm more in favor of them because they have served us well in the past with superintendents, and so that's sort of.
That's subjective.
It is subjective, exactly. That's exactly right. So.
Did the Mass Association say how many focus groups they would do? Because in here it doesn't say.
No, they didn't. Okay. They said that they would be present for focus groups.
We'll conduct focus groups for faculty, parents, students, community, and
So
public.
they didn't define it.
They didn't say how many, right?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pull up actually because I'm looking at the big main proposal here because I can't remember. I read so many of them. I can't remember which.
Yeah, it says.
Thank you for putting this together, Mary, because
right,
I know it was
yep,
a lot of back and forth between all three of them.
On their cover sheet it says they'll be present during focus group sessions, all meetings, interviews, and all other sessions related to the search, was what Mass Association of School Committee said. But they didn't specify how many. They said They'll conduct focus groups at each school level and hold separate meetings with community stakeholders, teachers, administrators, and central office personnel.
So, Bethlyn, part of the general consultation for MASC, it does say define the scope of search, superintendent qualifications. It doesn't say like what you're asking, like the characteristics. That was what you were like.
Yeah. So the way NESDEC frames it is they target to superintendents and assistant superintendents in districts with similar characteristics to Maynard.
I'm guessing that's part of the focus groups. You're getting feedback, right? I don't know if that's just
what we're looking for,
right.
Just the way that they word
They
it.
word it because I mean, what's the point of doing focus groups? You're not getting feedback from the community to what the characteristics of what you're looking for.
Yeah, with their, again, Mass Association School Committee, it says they'll have an initial visit with the school committee and then consult, discuss options with the committee. And both of them were either having the school committee do the search or having a search committee. And so I filled it out similar to the search committee because I know that that's the direction that we're going to go. But yeah, so they... the Association School Committee said that they'll look for the assessment of the search environment, analysis of district needs and goals, and in order to determine, and then defining the scope of the search, superintendent qualifications, community and staff involvement, and that. So I think that's like the characteristics.
Oh, it says, define the credential and profile of your next superintendent. So it's kind of like, I just worded differently.
It's just the word, yeah.
And identify the priorities of people who work with your new leader.
So I'm not sure in this case. I think when they say similar characteristics to Maynard, they might be talking about like similar demographic and size of the district. And
well, I was looking at the proposal itself, just the wording on here and under the community and staff.
Yep.
And it says, focus groups for faculty, parents, students, the other community stakeholders, the public at large to compile a report to guide, define the credentials and the profile of your next superintendent, and identify the priorities of the people who will work with them. I mean, they're all pretty much similar, I think, right?
So I'm trying to think of what the advantage would be with going with one over the other. Only thing I can think of with if they're going to offer us services in any case that actually kind of expands our reach a little, if they're able to offer through their network, just because we're already a member, if we also have NESDEC, but NESDEC being a little more expensive and we want to be fiscally responsible. Dorothy, we have been working with Dorothy Presser, so I've been very impressed with what she's been able to bring to the table and her
Both
experience.
her and Glenn Kuchar are very...
Yeah, you've had some conversations with him.
Yeah.
So what the Mass Association says is, in addition, should the school committee elect to conduct its own search, MASC also provides extensive and invaluable services to our member school districts without any fee. So that's where they're saying, regardless of whether you use us or not, you count on us, because we'll help you.
Help put the word out.
Helping to ensure a complete, competent, and successful search. So we kind of get the best of both if we do that.
If conduct it on its own, I don't know that they would contribute if we hired NESDEC, because I don't know that they would want to interfere. It might be a conflict and stepping on other people's toes.
Yeah, good point.
So I think it's only if we choose not to use a search committee at all.
The same that we just did for the interim.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, consideration?
I'm just thinking, what is our timeline? Are we looking to make a decision tonight? Are we thinking that we need to, because I know we want to get this started soon.
Right. Jennifer says that we should do it sooner versus
right.
later.
There are multiple districts that are going out this fall, so you're going to want to be in the front tier of that.
Right. And so then just thinking about, so say we vote on a particular vendor today, then we would have to then, I guess, go through contract negotiation with that. And by doing this process, we've solicited 3 bids, so.
Right, exactly.
And that's why HYA, because I know originally we were looking at MASS and realized that they do not provide such service. So that seems to meet that need. And then that will, I don't know how long that would take, the contract. I don't, would that be something that, Michelle?
I think it's pretty straightforward, you know, we would just sign the contract with them, and then they would come in and you know, walk us, we'd be able to walk through the nuances of.
Right. I think part of their process is help create that timeline as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
The timeline for the search,
Yeah.
correct. Just in terms of timeline, if you wait until the August 22nd meeting to start, to approve moving forward with the vendor and to start scheduling that, then that's another month
Yeah.
that you're waiting in terms
Yeah.
of that capacity. So I think your timeline question that you have is, when do we want to begin conversations with a vendor if we're doing that? So.
Right, because by then we want to be able to vote on a contract at that point. Or do,
I
don't think you have to
do
actually
we have to vote on it?
Yeah.
No, once we agree with the particular vendor, then it's just,
Correct.
Yep.
And the scope here.
right,
Based
based on what we've gotten.
And I imagine we would work some of that out as we move forward.
And part of what you would be doing, so once you give us the indication of who to move forward with, we would begin the process with you to get that contract settled, and then the vendor would connect with all of you in terms of setting up the meetings and doing those things. And that would likely take a couple weeks. So my guess is that you're starting focus groups and things of that nature in September, which is kind of where you want to be.
Yep.
Do any other professionals in the room have experience with NASDAQ or mask in this regard?
I don't. I have spoken with a couple people who have gone through searches, and this is their feedback. I have no way of verifying.
Right.
One person who I spoke with said to go with NASDAQ. They believe that they are of a higher quality product. And I did speak with people who have gone through searches, and they felt that the NASDAQ search was more comprehensive and sort of better organized. But again, I have no experience with either company or organization in that capacity.
We did have, do we have references for
We do.
for each of them?
Yeah, they're right in the
Did it-
packet.
yeah, I'm
Right in
just-
the packet. It says exactly who the people are. For NESDEC, it would be Carolyn Burke and Arthur Betancourt is the one that I spoke with. Carolyn has been a public school educator for over 35 years. She worked as a school principal for over 18 years, an assistant principal, head teacher, and teacher of all grades 1 through 6. And then all of her, the different degrees that she's received. And Art has served as superintendent of schools in Massachusetts for 21 years. He's offered numerous professional development workshops in school governance, planning and organizational development, leadership entry, career path development, and curriculum design.
Oh, here, I found it on masks, some of the masks. So,
yeah,
so
his degrees also.
So sampling of mask searches for superintendents over the past 2 years. So Lexington, Dr. Julie Hackett. Did they have a couple of who they were involved with? Towns, Neshoba, Brooke Clenchy.
They do have a larger, they sent many more school districts that they have worked with than Mass Association School Committee. Now, that doesn't mean anything, but they did send pages and pages of,
So just
Yeah,
based
the
on
ones that mask list are just the most recent ones.
Right,
that
the
they've-
2 years, past 2 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if we have, again, the cost-wise, if there's a $4,000 difference in service that we're...
I think just in terms of that dollar figure, with the $2,500 in potential expenses, you're looking, it could be less than the $4,000. Because
Okay.
it's up to $12,000 would be the mask cost. Because $2,500 was the maximum
Right,
for
exactly.
the
That's what they
expenses.
said. That's what they would max it out, which was great. That
Right,
they,
absolutely.
that they
For
would do
the
that.
travel
It wasn't
for
open-ended.
mask.
I believe, Mary, you had said it was travel and advertising.
Postage
And,
and-
yeah, exactly.
Max at
All of those
25.
So you're looking at potentially a $12,000 fee for mask, as compared to a $14,900. So still a difference.
Right,
I just want to add that $2,500 in.
Right.
And to be fair, NASDAQ, because we would want to do that half-day workshop. That's really important, I think.
I
So
feel
add
like we could,
$12.50.
I feel like we could do that with mask.
Right, because it says it in here, follow-up workshop to help.
Instead of with
Instead
them.
of doing it with NASDAQ, that would be great. We want to do it.
Yeah, no,
so
definitely. But I feel like we don't need to spend $1,200 to do it through NASDAQ when we can do it.
Mass would do that for us, even not being involved.
Well, yeah, because it is in their list.
It's in their list of services
of
that they
normal
provide.
services that they. I mean, we could do that. We could do it now with Mary
Great.
Jane.
Okay,
So
excellent.
you know,
All right.
it doesn't.
So we could save, so then it is a difference of about $2,000. And again, I mean, the reason that I'd be going with NESDEC is because they're a known entity, you know, I've seen them perform twice. Although we have been having good workshops with Dorothy.
Yeah. And it's definitely a
So
different,
I don't want to
I just get the sense in looking through this that they do a more targeted and in-depth, NESDEC is more targeted and in-depth. That's just the sense that I'm getting from what I've heard before. You've done particularly searches with them before. It's a little more money, but it does seem like it might actually, in quality and depth, and particularly where we are unique, I think we're going to need some of that.
And we also have Dr. Kennedy, that was a superintendent here, and he's still working for NESDEC, and so we sort of have that underlying, you know, he knows our school system and that kind of thing too, and so
I think we can make our own brochure.
added subliminal benefit.
We can make our own brochure. We don't need to spend that money.
I'd like to make a motion that we hire NESDEC to do the search, to help lead the school system with the superintendent search.
I'll second.
Get it there.
Discussion.
Conversation.
I know this is not an easy decision.
No, I'm not quite there though. That's the thing. I'm trying to.
So we have further discussion. And
Yeah, I haven't been totally swayed, but I'm also not. I don't have a lot of close, as far as the difference in the cost to the services. That's my only really hang up that I'm looking through. There's nothing, and plus again, I know we have an ongoing relationship with Mask.
and
So I
actually,
Yeah.
right, like with the workshops, I'm thinking.
Oh,
like
yeah,
we're doing these workshops. That's what I mean right now, which would be the same individual.
do you mind if someone?
Oh yeah.
Right. Do they do reference checks? Are you able to talk to other customers and clients?
Yeah, they actually.
They provided.
You mean
For us to do it, to do reference for all
Yeah.
school systems that they've done in the past.
Well, just to get a sense
They provided
of other
tons of,
people's
like-
experiences with these different firms and their,
Yes.
um,
Yeah, they gave a plethora for both of them, actually.
just to have
Yeah.
that. Anyway, just because I know since you've had experience with one, then if you want
Right.
to
It's a
talk with
different.
their clients and the other.
Yes. And I think, let me see, view search list.
So we could also, albeit we understand we have time is of the essence, we could get the references in line and then make a decision on August 22nd. Folks call some places, get more specifics, particularly if we don't have as much experience with Mask in this capacity.
Right. If we do that, we're pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pushing.
Right.
the
I don't think that they would be
timeline.
providing us references if they thought that they would be poor, like we would be calling the ones that they provided, which I'm hoping that they probably think that they're providing, and they have quite a bit, so it would be calling pages possibly or spot checking
Yeah, you end up picking ones that you think would be
more relevant.
Yeah.
Or,
but it's not an easy decision, and we don't have to all agree. That's part of the
Right.
and then we can just
yeah,
put
I mean,
it
from a
on.
cost perspective, I just I think of that, for what we offered or what they too offered. I don't know if there's much of a difference in service, but I don't have a lot of Mask as what we don't know. And they do seem to have like caps and other services that they would provide in addition, but I think that's because we're paying fees already for those things. Like that workshop, the follow-up workshop with the superintendent and the school committee, we would get that with mask, where we'd have to pay for it with NASDAQ, which I think would be helpful.
Right.
Ask a quick clarifying question. In terms of advertising, the Massachusetts Association, when it says committee may wish to place an ad, does it basically mean every advertising that we would want to do, we would have to pay in addition?
What they call hard copy, like Boston Globe,
Sure.
Education
Yep.
Week, although the Education Week was included in that seems to be the one. But yeah, so it's the hard copy ones, that was the 2,448 or something. That's why I said I'm not even sure that we want to do that, because that seems antiquated these days.
Well, but you have to remember that some of these searches, when they talk about placing it there, they're placing it on their online repository.
Oh, I see.
So if we're putting in the Boston Globe search pieces, yes, it's print, but it's also available in their online search components. And Education Week would be a component of that as well. So if you want to look beyond a School Spring or a NASDAQ or MASC, and MASS will obviously post it as well. If you want to look beyond that, you're looking at paying for that.
It's just an
placement of
option
that
beyond.
Right.
Yes.
So any advertising we wanted to do beyond sort of typical.
Right. And it says in here, like, was it School Spring as far as NASDAQ, but we could do that on our own, right? We don't need NASDAQ.
So School Spring is something that we would do on our own. I think where you're going to get the postings, you're going to get it on School Spring. You're going to get it on whatever organization's website that you choose to go with. You will generally get it on, so if you go in with MASC, it would be posted on NASDAQ as an affiliate search, so something, not a search they're running, but as an affiliate, it's generally posted there. It'll likely get pulled by LinkedIn and other places. But if you wanted an explicit posting or promoted posting in any of those, for MASC, you're paying for each one. For NASDAQ, you're paying for anything beyond top school jobs. The American Association of School Administrators, and
And that's only 30 days.
Right, that's for 30 days, but,
Well, we don't.
and then the electronic reporting, that's what I need. And then also the category below, the electronic outreach, NASDAQ website, National School Development Council website, Superintendent, School Board Association websites.
And Mary, is it fair to say that the Mass Association, their reach is simply only to people that really work in Massachusetts? Whereas
they advertise, they did distribution to their 52-member NSBA network of school boards, so it's in their part of their free things they do for free anyway.
yeah.
right, but a 900 superintendent, assistant superintendent distribution, which is direct one-on-one, 900 is a really small number, right? I mean, it's a relatively small number. Whereas if I just wonder, would right.
Right, so they do that,
Right.
that NSBA network of schools, state schools.
And they also, the association, they advertise in local and regional newspapers and other publications like Education Week. So it does seem like it's more concentrated in our area.
Okay. Thank you.
So we do have a motion, or we could vote on that. We could continue with further discussion before we vote on that. It's not an easy decision, but at this point.
I don't think we're gonna go wrong with either one. I just wanna, I think it's just a matter of what everyone's comfort level is,
If you have particular things you're thinking that might have other people, you're welcome to share your rationale.
Well, and again, I mean, I can only say from NASDAQ, talking to they cater it. They're not like written in stone, like it's black and white, just what you see here. You made it sound like that's what they do, is they meet and determine, what nuances we want, how we want to direct it, and that has been my experience in the past too.
So your thought with NESDEC is based, you're not seeing anything with masks that you would prefer?
Right.
Okay, so
And I
nothing,
think, because similar to what I said earlier, they both offer most of the same things. My preference is NESDEC because they're a known entity, and I've actually worked with them twice in the past with the two superintendents. We have an affiliation with them. Dr. Kennedy, one of our past superintendents, is working there, and I know that he'll be, in the ear of the people there, so he'll sort of be looking out for us in that. So it really is just a comfort zone that I've, been working with them. So I tend to go with people that have proven themselves that we've been satisfied with in the past. That's really my preference.
I do like the fact that they have a larger, seems like a larger search area that they send the information out to.
the publication of,
Yeah, all the different states, whereas,
Not to be cynical,
I think they
but
do that here.
does
but
anyone really
distribution of
relocate
50
from out of state?
network of
Yes.
schools.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, Bob Girardi.
They do the Mass Board State School
Well,
Board Association.
So the other piece to pay attention to, and I believe someone was discussing this, in terms of benefits for school administrators or public school officials, the quality of education. I mean, we live here, so it's something that we take for granted, but Massachusetts is truly known nationally as having a top-tier educational system, and so the ability, we received an application for the interim superintendent, for example, from someone in upstate New York. So,
Yeah, and even when I think about it, Dr. Masterson came from New Hampshire, so both of our past superintendents have come from out of state, actually three of them. There's another one that ended up retiring from Massachusetts, so.
and the other piece you're going to, the other component, do I think we're going to get someone from, I think someone in the last interview round applied from Las Vegas or Nevada. Dubai. We got someone from Dubai, sorry. So but the other component of the national search is you do get your network out there in those pieces, and then again, if you're looking at superintendent salaries, and I know that's been a big conversation for people to have. If you want a regional candidate, you're going to be paying regional prices, like in terms of grabbing those folks. So the other thing that it does is it expands your pool to potentially be able to find a candidate who meets your needs, but is potentially willing to come in at the cost that you are able to provide. So that's the other benefit. Again, is someone going to move from California here? Who knows? But I would want to get some more people from other states that maybe don't have the current salaries that
So
many
you're paying
communities
$2,000 now, but potentially if you have that wider scope, then we save ourselves.
I mean, you could, but the other reality is that most of your applicants are likely going to be local. They're likely going to
You
be
think of like relocation costs and stuff, though.
sitting principals or assistant superintendents.
True, that's, if I mean, it is, I think what you do a trade-off.
Okay.
You don't pay as much as
No,
salary, but
we
you
don't pay relocation costs. I don't
Generally
anticipate us
speaking,
doing
that's
that.
not
No,
the
they want
way
the
it
job,
should be.
that should be.
I think the draw for the candidates in education are going to be the system and the pedigree, if you will, which is really interesting when you go to national conferences to be that person in the room that comes from Massachusetts.
So do you think that the National School Board Association, because it looks like that's where mask would not be sufficient to?
Again, the only experience that I have had, it was unsolicited feedback that I received from someone who works in districts and then a person who has gone through searches. When I mentioned we were going, they said, have a search firm, and they unsolicited suggested NESDEC. I don't know of.
They didn't specify like what. It was just it was more.
So they both felt
organized?
that so the candidate in particular felt that it was much more organized, much more professional, that they were guided through the process, and then the person who was coming from the other side, was just saying that from his perspective, and he sees a lot of these searches and has to deal with some of the implications of them. On the other end, he appreciates the structure as well. And those were, I mentioned them only because they were unsolicited recommendations. It wasn't, hey, which search firm did you use? And I do know a lot of districts that use NESDEC, but I also know districts that use MASC, and generally speaking, you know, again, you're going to get a lot of the same things. It just depends, as Mary's indicating, on experience, comfort level. The notion of having someone who knows the district is intriguing, but if you've been happy with the representative from MASC in terms of the work that she's done, I just spoke with someone today actually about the woman in her name, and so very highly of her work as well.
She's been a school committee member for like 22 years in Linfield.
Yeah, so again, I think a lot of it is apples to apples, and it's just which apple is shinier in terms of that.
Well, I definitely don't think that we should wait till August 22nd.
No.
Right. So, motion on the table for NASDAQ.
All right, any further discussion at this moment? We'll vote.
No.
All right, so let's do the vote for NASDAQ, and then we can go from there. All right, so all in favor of NASDAQ?
All opposed.
All opposed? Sorry, I'm not used to us doing that. All right, well, we have a 3-2 vote in favor of NASDAQ. So,
Phew, done.
let's move forward.
Yeah. So next step, do you want me to call tomorrow and let them know that we're moving forward with them, NASDAQ, and how fast they can come in and have a meeting, what the next step is as far as signing a contract and that, and how fast they can get in here to.
One of you could send me an email so we can put in a requisition and purchase order, just so that, because I'm sure NASDAQ is probably going to ask for a purchase order number.
Do you have that proposal in electronic form by chance? I know we got paper copies. Are you able to?
That actually would work perfect.
Okay, because I was thinking that, I was looking, I was like, oh, I think that we got paper, because I wanted to save it to the file, just to reference, and I,
Absolutely.
okay.
Is it safe?
No, it's my personal.
Oh, okay.
So I'll forward it to you guys too, but
Awesome.
So you are going to follow up with Michelle and get that, okay. Good
Don't
discussion,
want that
good
to fall
considerations,
through the
thank you,
cracks.
everybody.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to move on to new operational protocols, which there were handouts for those.
Yeah.
I would like to, just generally speaking, we're looking at our operational protocols. We're also looking at, as we move forward, how we ensure that we're aligning throughout the district and goals and strategies and at different levels within ourselves as a school committee, superintendent, building level principals, using school councils in that regard. So we're really looking at alignment in all these ways. And as part of that, we're finding that there may have been protocols, but we're really returning to looking at all of those and ensuring that what we have in place is going to serve us for moving forward. So to start us off, two things that were most apropos were things that Natasha ended up putting together for us, and we had Mask had provided some guidance and templates, and I'll let you.
Yeah, okay. All right, so I'll start off with the staff report presenting, and everyone should have a draft. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't have it. I had it out. Okay.
Oh, do we? Okay, I don't have a copy.
Oh,
All right.
I wondered why I had two.
Oh, here you go, thank you.
Lydia stole your copy.
Stole it from Mary.
So the intent of this was actually, again, Mask had brought it to our attention through a workshop, and I think what we found, everyone's experience, is that sometimes during the year we get presentations and there's a lot of questions, and maybe information could be formulated in a way that makes those decision makings for school committees more informed and just more effective. And so Dorothy actually had referenced, this was in based on a template that they use, but it's from a book. And I went through a little bit and tweaked some things that I felt like were, like, because it said, one example is all presentations to the school committee 2 weeks before. I thought that was whoa. Yeah, I didn't know if we could meet that realistic and for it to be successful, you know, I was like, okay, but I thought one, and even one, I think we have to work towards that because we all probably can do a better job of just being more timely. So, so I just think that as, you know, we have presentations, these were really great questions that, you know, people could build into what they're presenting to us. You know, it covers budget implications on what that would be for whatever's being presented, if it's a gain or loss or whatever. And some of the things, you know, changing my, you know, thinking of special education, I added some tweaks like inclusivity and how it impacts, you know, staff or student inclusivity factors and whatever those pieces might be. So, you know, beyond that, there was just kind of what was on the book, but I wanted to see if we could agree on this, or if we do need to tweak it so we could utilize it for this year or in a way that might help drive a better informed board decision making. So I wanted to, should I make a motion that we can have discussion about it, or do we want to talk about it?
I guess I would gauge, is there a significant discussion people would like to have in relation to this first? Because if not, I think having a motion would be great. We can kind of move forward from there.
Yeah, and I think we
you
can always
share feedback that you thought were okay.
Yeah, I think it's something that is important information. I think the presentations as we go through them this year, you know, certainly we'll provide this to administrative staff and work through this, and likely as we go through, there may be recommendations that we make, but I think just in terms of the scope of the questions, it's
right. Like there's some things that might not speak to every presentation clearly, but at least it gives thought to say, oh, maybe I need to build that piece in.
It's a guideline.
Right. It's a guideline, and then when we're getting things, we can maybe make note of, you know, as we're documenting how it's.
And we could, for this first year, after people present, ask them just any feedback they might have in relation to how this is working for them, because it's meant to help everyone in streamlining the process and getting the information that we need, and not having them have to go off in some place they don't need to go, and being efficient.
And I think about like how we've had, you know, prior years, you have a lot of like sometimes public comments after, and it just, you know, you realize, oh, that was a good question that maybe we could have captured in a way that we, you know, just again, different person, different lens. So.
So we could look at the other one and then make a motion in relation to both, if we want to just kind of get them both done.
The other one, there was more feedback that Michelle.
So I don't know, and you would know perhaps better than I, that you need a motion to accept these in any capacity. You could just simply say these are, if you're all in agreement, these are what we're doing. I don't know that you need an official.
Like they're
vote.
just
They're becoming
Because they're guidelines and not official
protocols.
They're not bylaws.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Protocols.
We're
Okay.
good.
All right. So.
Can I just say for the
absolutely.
No, we've moved on.
Oh, all right.
Go ahead.
For the second, what data do we have to show this? Is there some place in here where we can say, you know, do your slides support what you're presenting? Because that's one of the things that I have found.
Concern about.
Is that make effective use of slides.
One of the so down here in impact statement, I don't know if this maybe is answering. Maybe that does not really answering because I.
Do you want to try to come up with wording to offer, and then we could look at it like at our,
Oh, sure.
what, and that's super what you're thinking?
Yeah, no, it's just sometimes I think it's.
There's one question: like how will we measure and monitor the impact? But I don't know if that really captures what you're asking.
Yeah, no, it's more like for them to reflect, and when they're putting it together, does this slide actually support? And I don't want to call anybody out on previous slide presentations, but
General best practices and guidelines.
Yes, yeah, just you know, does your slide actually add information to your presentation, or is, you know, is it something that I could have read in an email? Or, you know, does it actually support what it is that you're saying?
So I think what
But-
maybe, I'm trying to think of how to word that in a way that
It's not offensive?
kind of,
Yeah. Oh, I know.
but trying to translate Lydia.
Translate, Lydia.
I agree with you, Lydia. I think that there have been some where there was not enough information to support the
Well, why don't we do
Premise
this?
of the discussion,
Yes.
yes.
We're gonna have, you think about the wording of
I
it.
will.
If you wanna pitch something to us, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
And then,
Well,
I'm sure.
also, if we're looking at, if we're asking them to get the presentation to us a week ahead of time, then we could ask those questions too and ask them to incorporate those.
Right.
It allows that opportunity as
Right.
well.
Right. So we can digest things a little bit
Exactly. Yeah, I like
better
that idea
and
of
be
having it
prepared.
early, so that we can
Right.
do that. So that we're not catching them off guard by asking questions.
Right,
that,
and
you know,
that's one of the things that I felt, at least I've been guilty of in the past, is.
Oh, we all,
Well, I think we all have.
Yeah, with busy
not on
things,
purpose,
yeah.
Not trying to catch anybody, but just, questions that come up.
Yeah.
Right, so Lydia, you will provide additional suggested wording, then we can maybe
Yes.
see where that can fit in. But pending that, does anyone else have any other?
No, I think this is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm
I
just,
think so
I'm
too.
trying to think of, and I'm just, going through our draft of the calendar events and just thinking like taking one of these out and having it address all the, I guess it's gonna be a learning curve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
'Cause
absolutely.
some of these presentations, they really,
They won't lend themselves.
they won't lend themselves,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we'll just.
And I think that's what it was kind of like, it's like a template, so to that point, it's not gonna, every presentation might not be a relevant piece to, build on, but I think it
So
like,
it's a working document.
right, I think my hope is that it would spark a question, if it does, like, oh, let me address that if there is an opportunity to
Perfect.
capture.
Yep, no, it's great.
Yeah. Great. And for the calendar of events, is there anything that there was consideration for? You said there were some things to be.
Yeah, so I got some feedback today. So Jennifer had shared about suggested adding a mid-year check-in and end-of-year financial for the district goals, and also about mask, an assessment, assessment presentation for, MCAS, the other letters are swapped around. MCAS in mid-September, October. So I was gonna just take that feedback and then just kind of, I hadn't done it yet. One thing that I did do was I moved, because we were talking about how we can align the school council opportunities for budget, and so originally that was in October, but we felt that September needed to be when that needs to happen, because then they can report back from the school councils on what their school level recommendations are, and then that will better align with what Michelle needs for, does that make sense?
So we,
So October.
right, October was.
school council.
Right, it was,
have the conversation to present it.
Okay, to present in October, yeah. Okay.
oh, so you want to, okay, hold on, maybe I read it
Because you
wrong.
have it in November right now, so we were saying like they could present in October.
Yes,
Because I
Is that-
generally ask for all of the administrators to have their budgets in November.
okay,
they
so the
would have to
presentation in
have the
October,
conversation with their school councils prior to
right.
that.
So we were talking, I see Tim here, and yesterday I met with him and Donna. We were looking at the schedule for Green Meadow School Council, for instance. And so September is a meeting, then they have the October meeting, and then November. So November seemed to be too late for that. So depending on when the October one, and I have to double check it, but would by the end of October, anytime just in October, reporting out to school committee would be fine?
Because I generally would like to say, by the last week in November, we
Yeah.
kind of lose a week with Thanksgiving or whatever, but, by the last week in November, I really would love to have, the department requests in, because then that gives us the whole month of December. We have to give our budget proposal, to the town administrator by January 1st.
Right.
So that would give us the month of December to really work through.
It's not really a full month, so.
Yeah. So, I mean, even sooner would be
Right.
great. But to have that conversation, you know, in that alignment on if the school council has put this forth and the department head believes that, you know, that's something that they want to, you know, focus on or move forward with, then how are they going to allocate the funds throughout their budget? That takes a little thought and time and something we've been kind of missing out on. So this earlier is the best.
And I know that it was talked about, Donna was going to, like, at the staff meeting, you know, to have that conversation with getting staff feedback first.
Yep.
So then to be able to present to the school council, then to have that conversation and then be able to.
In previous districts that I've worked with, that it's been a more inclusive process where the lead teachers would actually bring presentations to the principals that would work those budget requests into their requests along with the school council. I don't necessarily know if that's what goes on here, because I just work with the principals at that part. But, you know, so where we were working budget, I also came from a vocational school as well. So you're working budget all year long. Really, like, you know, July 1, you start talking about it. So, you know, I would love to kind of have that inclusive process. I would love to have that time frame, like, to really get to the nitty gritty of it and really align our goals with where we're spending our money. And I think the best way to do that is to work with everyone before we present the budget.
So I'll incorporate the school council report out in October.
Yes.
And MCAS reporting in October as well. Is that okay? Because it sounds like they're not back yet, so.
They're not back yet. Generally speaking,
Just-
we've done the end of October, beginning of November. We should be able to do the beginning of October.
Okay. I'll just put October and we can decide, you know, we have some flexibility for October.
Right, so, and I also had, at the beginning of each year, we usually have the principals come and present their goals, right, for the year.
So that's one thing that's on here somewhere.
Is it here?
August, yeah, school leadership report out to school committee on school goals.
Okay, all right.
I don't know how that's gonna work this year because we're, you know, opening and yeah.
The same.
Okay,
Yep,
all right.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, co-principal and co-teaching presentations, am I getting to,
So I think,
or is that?
I mean, we can continue.
I think that's like kind of like we can add those at any point.
Okay.
This is just like a standing every year,
Okay.
you know, like
All right.
the
Well,
basic.
so as long as we- right,
yeah.
these are
Right,
the
like these are
basics,
the
okay,
basics, and then we
have
fill it
other
in with
things
all
that
of
we-
those
okay.
other things, like dyslexia law, you know, all those other things,
Yeah.
that literacy.
We'll just add in as we.
Right,
go.
right. This is
Okay.
just a basic framework to prepare.
More about
you know.
budget related than, it seems like more.
Right.
So, and I think one of the suggestions in terms of adding an update on the school and district goals in the mid-year and around January, and then having a final reporting out on school and district goals, particularly the work that you all will be doing next week around strategic planning and using those documents. Those reports really were strategic planning updates in terms of that. So if we have, you know, really clarity around the school committee goals, superintendent goals with a longer term component, that's going to be built into those presentations that are here. But if there's a moment where we need to, look at a specific program or issue, we can do that. Another component that I would like to add is regular reporting out, and I believe Natasha, you have it in here.
The budget?
Around curriculum committees,
Yes.
where we would have our teachers and our teacher leaders representing specific curriculum disciplines, so that you're hearing from them sort of the work that they're doing.
I think I put it in here twice. Does that sound about right?
December,
Okay.
it was curriculum
It was
subcommittee.
December, and then on the back, April.
Yep, so what we're
So-
doing in terms of the curriculum committees, and I'm assuming, so this could be a twofold, one, a curriculum subcommittee of the school committee, but essentially with our team, what we're really looking to do is the 6-year curriculum review cycle that we spoke of. And essentially, so twice a year you would get a reporting out. Likely the first part of the year would be on disciplines that are in a certain part of that cycle. And then the second part of the year would be a different set of disciplines in another part of that cycle.
So we could just word it, it's curriculum committee / subcommittee, so I mean, you can, again, flexibility and whatever's, and, okay, cool, I'll do that. And Michelle, one thing I wanted to make sure that your eye was on was the quarterly budget report out and forecast out, and that's something, okay, because I know that's something that we're trying to have a little bit more, and I don't know, I don't have like idea of how that was, but just like thinking of.
I had to provide them
Yeah.
previously. It just wasn't really requested when I was here, but
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with.
Okay, I just wanted to double check that piece.
Natasha, I'm seeing in June, we have,
June,
present superintendent draft evaluation. One of the things that we talked about this year, because of the way that things are happening with new members starting and, however, like the July 1st, I feel like
We need to do it in
this
May.
that the
Earlier?
draft needs to be in May, and that we
Yeah.
need to actually do the evaluation in June.
Okay.
While we have the existing school committee in
Right.
place, just in
Before
case
it all-
things change,
yeah.
right, yeah, is that
Well, so the
important?
remember what we learned is that we have to present the draft the same to the public when we get it. Right, and
Yeah.
so it could be finalized, that's just when are we saying that we present it to the,
We want it finalized by June 30th, right? Before any school committee members might change over.
Right.
Because you're asking new
Right.
people to evaluate, and they haven't had the year experience with the superintendent. So that's what we're trying to get to, is to have it finalized by June 30th.
so if
and
we're
voted
doing
on.
it in May, that means that it all have to be compiled and everything,
Well, it
done.
could be for the
If we-
second
but if
meeting
we-
in May.
Right, so if we did it, the second meeting, right, like Lydia says, then we only have one meeting in June.
June,
Yeah.
okay. All right, so I'll move
And
that.
granted, this year was, different because we added a whole bunch of meetings, but I think normally we only have one meeting in June.
I want 10.
All right,
In
so
June
I'll move that,
specifically.
I'll move that to May, thank you.
Yeah, it's getting
We
late.
should all get a little punchy this
I didn't
morning.
bring any M&Ms.
And then adding in that we do the actual,
Becky's minutes.
the approving, we would need to do that in June.
Okay, so it's two different.
Anyone that makes it to the
I
end
think it
needs
is
to get
different,
something
'cause
here.
We do the draft, and then we have to actually do the evaluation.
Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Two different ones?
It is,
I don't know,
yes.
that's why I'm like, it's a general
Right.
question, I have no idea.
Yeah, no, it
Okay.
is.
So then we do the final in June?
June, right.
Okay. All right, and the other things,
Don't we, still on that same topic, don't we in January do the mid-year for superintendent? Is that,
Yes.
am I not seeing that, or am I seeing that?
oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry about that, nope, it's on
On
the
the
other
back,
side.
is it on
Yeah, yeah, you're
the,
good.
oh, super.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's the last item,
Progress.
just haven't- on the
I
other
could
side.
word it differently if that's, but it's just reporting out progress.
Mid-year.
It's a mid-year,
Well,
But don't we
This is
do a
di-
mid-year?
I feel like this is different.
Yeah,
I
that's
think it is
him.
different, it
Yeah.
is different.
Right, we do a mid-year
Superintendent progress report for,
So I'll add in.
evaluate, because you actually do.
So if you
shift-
evaluate is him versus the one's a district, or her, yes, I'm sorry.
Right.
Them, or they,
Yes.
the pronouns, correct.
Right,
Okay.
so this is different from the
Mid-year
evaluation.
yeah,
Yes.
of the individual.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So mid-year superintendent evaluation. All right, so that'll be under January.
yep.
We can always reword it as we go
Yeah,
forward.
we don't need to do it right now because, it's
What we
10.
can do is know if we feel like we have the major elements in here, this allows us something we've never, that I know of, had the opportunity to do, which is to lay this out for everyone and give
Right.
them, and
Right.
we
I
know
just
it-
know we don't get a lot of opportunities to deliberate about it, so that's where I wanted to make sure that we
Yeah.
had.
Well,
that.
because they're guidelines,
Yeah.
we were actually able in our training session to look things over as well. That we were going to use the first part of the August 5th training session
Yeah,
to
we
review.
could bring this,
Do you want to bring that?
yeah, on Monday.
So if there's anything more we wanted to add in or consider,
Yeah.
we can do that as well.
And I'm sure Dorothy will weigh in and say, oh, they usually do this sort of thing in that this month, or you might want to reconsider such and such.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone's got to drive to Maine.
So we are moving into citizens' comments. We have 20 minutes scheduled for this, so.
We'll have them all back.
I'm just saying I'm interested in Lydia's member comments about the meeting. So.
Oh, that's next.
Yes. So so I'm gonna say my comment before I hear your comment, but the one piece that I'm interested to hear about is like the verification, because we talked a lot about like trust and making sure the work at pre-med, like that in the past there's been, discussion that events were clean, but like the definition of that is different. So anyway, I'm just interested in like your discussion on verification and making sure that things are getting done the way that everybody wants them to.
Mm-hmm. Like checklists, is that kind of what you're, I know that was one of the things.
Yeah, just the, yeah. I mean, when we talked about it in our committee, a couple months ago, we were talking about photos and we were talking about just ways that we can really make people feel at ease. The things that we...
Did the photos that I took at the last update not
make
it through to you?
We have nothing. We have the email, the public email, from Jen that you sent last Friday that just said everything's on track or whatever.
Oh,
but we
Is that
don't
the
have,
one that from you were away and the internet was working and then?
It might have, yeah. I
Might
think
have
there were
been that one.
vacation.
I think
Okay.
Oh, it's the one where
Was the
you...
expectation that those because I was understanding that was an internal document, and that the external document we would be sending out was a summary of what was discussed.
What are we looking to achieve?
Oh, I've been sharing that, my notes from those meetings, I have been sharing with the Green Meadow Future Committee.
Okay, my apologies.
So if you want, I can forward it, or if...
I can send them out, that's why I didn't hear that.
Also,
Okay.
could we get like those, because I don't...
Totes.
Those updates?
They should be on the drive.
On the shared drive?
I thought so.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right. But Megan, to your point though, and I don't know if Kyle, do they use like checklists? Like this came up like
Punch
AM,
list, yes.
like AM shift, PM, like the items. I don't know part of their.
Not to that degree, no. So the general contractor or the project manager, Bill Goddard Jr., is there every day, all day, and he's going through and making sure. And when we were there,
I was thinking like the custodians, like for the day-to-day.
Oh, the custodians.
Like the work, like job aids. So
I think it's two different scenarios. I think in the immediate, it's like the stuff that we've all talked about, like the cleaning and that, like all that stuff that got verified. So I'm interested in that, but I'm also ongoing in terms of, and I think that's related to School Dude, and I think that can help manage that.
There's a maintenance direct piece that we have in School Dude where we can turn on, and I did start this, but where we can turn on certain maintenance. Technically, it's kind of like a punch list, but like maintenance requests that the custodians would have to check off on a daily basis, and it also is would say, when there's a schedule, like say, filter replacement schedule. So there's a schedule. So every 30, not that they have to be replaced every 30 days, I have no idea what I'm talking about. But every 30 days that something would need to be done, it would pop up on their list.
Oh,
So they would
that help them though? I mean, it sounds like it might be a helpful thing for them.
I think it would be, I honestly think it's a really useful tool. We just need to get the people in place
To do it.
Yeah.
Got it. So that's on the horizon.
That's on the horizon. I'm probably going to end up training the custodians on it. We have some challenges with that. Here we are. Yes, it does have the ability to have that checklist like you're talking about. It even has the ability for us to create our own prompts as well. So I know at one point Josh had sent me kind of like a checklist that I think he got from somewhere else about the different steps to cleaning the univents. I think that's what you're probably referring to. We could add our own version of that into School Do. Just right now, we need somebody to look at it and use it. So until then, maybe we'll
Right now, it's just you. It's just Michelle, right? So
It's me. It's coming to me, guys.
Michelle, can you record yourself, like training, like seriously, so that it's available, so you don't have to retrain and retrain, and people could refer back to it.
I'll
Just
put you on YouTube.
a thought.
Can we put you on YouTube?
They do have like you can do
Yeah.
go through here.
Yeah,
and,
they
like,
do.
they have that function available in PowerPoint.
Well, actually, School Dude has its own video trainings. To be honest
cool.
with you, it has a ton of training. We could all be trained on it if we want to.
I want to.
It's right now our challenge is time.
Yeah,
With the
the
custodians.
bandwidth and the time.
And we had Kyle and I had spoke about when we, Kyle, Tim and I, when we went to School Do, that we thought the month of August would be a great time for us to, get all the custodians in one room together and train them. Then we talked about maybe not getting them all in one room together and, doing it by piecemeal. But right now, everybody's kind of straight out. So it's, I feel almost guilty asking them to do this. So we're going to try and figure it out sooner than later.
I think as long as we have maybe like a revisit date, maybe
Sure.
that might help us kind of stay on target, because I feel like when things are open-ended, that's how they kind of get.
Yeah, I mean.
Maybe we can revisit like in September, or is that too?
Sure, I hope to have a facilities person.
Oh,
by
okay,
September.
right. So maybe depending on.
I'm sure Greg does too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, if we want to
Like
put a target
early.
date for
Just
September,
just to keep it like a pin in it. Yeah.
No, I agree.
Okay. Cool. All right.
Do you, any other citizens' comments? Very good. Then why don't we start with your update,
Okay.
Lydia?
So
This is members' comments now.
members' comments. Morrow, Justine St. John, Greg Johnson, Tiffany Kennedy. Who am I missing?
Charles.
Oh, right, Charles Gabron, right. Michelle Resendez, and then Bill Goddard, the project manager, and Bill Goddard Jr. We all met.
Justine.
I said Justine.
Oh, you did?
I did. I said her third.
Oh, sorry.
You're only third.
All the
Nothing
firsts.
personal.
Well, just because we're up here, you're over there. So,
Feels weird.
just kidding. So,
I could be Justine.
ooh, there we
Maybe
go.
Melissa.
Okay.
That's like throw
You
people off.
did double duty on Tuesday. All right, you know what? Let's get back
Yeah,
on
keep
topic.
going.
All right, so this, Megan, if you want to see this, but I also have a photo and I can send it to you. So this is the K and pre-K wing. Those were fogged Monday evening, and the only rooms that were not done were 7A, which is Capola's, 7B, which is DeSalvatore, and then 7H, which is the Ann Duclos Library, and that's because there's furniture in them right now. So what will happen eventually is once the furniture's moved out of there and they've come in and all the rooms are set up and everything's clean, they're going to refog the entire building. Every room is going to get fogged. So these will essentially get fogged twice. Everything else will get fogged once. And the wiring is all done. All of the fire alarms have been installed. There are 2 smoke alarms that they're still, that needed to be installed, but I believe they were to be installed on Wednesday. What was the other stuff? The painting is all done. The hallways, they look fantastic. And again, I have photos. I can send all this stuff to you so you have those. The exit signs, the lighted exit signs in the kindergarten side are all installed, and those look great too. What we learned, and I guess we should have known this, just makes common sense, but I assumed that there would be exit signs installed on the pre-K doors, but no, because it's not an emergency. So Exactly. So what I didn't realize is that the preschool actually has to go across the hall and exit out through the kindergarten. All the sinks are installed. Now, there were, Michelle requisitioned 8. For some reason, 10 were ordered. Don't really know why. And those are going to go back in
They installed them all. They installed 10 when.
We get 2 free ones?
No, not.
You had to pay for them, I guess.
Yep.
So.
And the work was done. It was done, so it wasn't. I don't know where it was, but it was like the kitchenettes. But the kitchenettes were.
We didn't need so what happened is we didn't need the other 2 sinks. There were already other sinks in the room. So what was supposed to happen, I don't have any idea why it didn't, because I had the conversation with multiple people, but they were supposed to build a cover over the piping so that, so when the building inspector, I don't know if it was the building inspector, one of the inspectors came through, they said we could build something over it so that if at any point we decided we wanted to put a sink there, we still had the piping. Instead of, because the other option was to cut the piping all the way back to the wall and then repair the wall. So, I don't know, 2 more sinks were installed.
Yeah.
You know, so that was done. And then the other thing I think I just wanted to follow up because I didn't hear you say it is Rick Cassetta was actually, he's been amazing.
Yep.
Thank God for him. He had reminded us that we wanted to check all of the speaker system and the telephone system before the ceiling tiles went up. So Stephen, so I went back and the speaker guys are coming on Monday at 4 o'clock just to make sure that all of the intercoms work in that hall. And Stephen, our IT person, is testing all the phone lines. But she said it shouldn't be a problem because they're raw. Voice over IP, which doesn't mean there's a lot of wires, I guess.
The data.
So all he's doing is plugging in the phone in each room and making sure that it turns on. I don't think that either one of these things would hold us up because as long as the telephone system works, there is a functionality of the telephone system that if the intercom doesn't work, you can actually use the speaker within the phone.
As an intercom.
As an intercom. So, just in case we do have that, it's not what we'd rather be using the intercom system, but in case there's 1 or 2 that aren't working that we would have to, scramble to get fixed, at least we'd have the phone intercom system in place to do that. So thankfully, Rick, I wouldn't have thought of that. So he's being cognizant of the fact that I'm not facilities person and trying to keep us on the ball because I think everybody working there wants us to open as successfully as we all do. So.
Yeah, I'm very impressed that it's going to be done next Friday.
Is there some questions about billing though? That tomorrow.
Can I finish?
I was just thinking of that. No, it's part of the Green Meadow thing.
Go ahead. So you finish and then
okay. So there will be covers, PVC covers, put over the pipes under the sinks. They were exposed. So in the pictures, you'll see the pipes are exposed. We didn't realize that there were going to be covers, so we were a little shocked. And then they informed us that that's indeed going to happen. They have not yet covered the chases, the pipes that go from the univents, I'm not sure why they go to the univents, but they're next to the univent and they go up through the ceiling, and those pipes are exposed. Those will all get covered. There were 3 leaks after the rainstorm, not this past weekend, the weekend before. 1 has been fixed. Someone is coming to deal with the other 2. So until that is, dealt with, and we're sure there won't be any more leaks, they aren't going to put the ceiling tiles in those areas. And the vents in the K wing, the vents that are comes down behind the built-ins, those, they haven't done anything with those yet, but they're going to make sure that those are all operable, and if not, they're going to notify us which are and which aren't operable.
the exhaust fans.
Is that what you mean?
Well, it's the fresh air intake. It's the
Oh,
one that goes
okay.
straight up to the roof.
Okay.
And
We're making sure that they're not blocked.
yeah, because some of the teachers have like actually taped them closed.
Yeah.
Just because in the winter, and I've experienced it myself. In the winter, the cold air just drops right down, and it is freezing back there. But unfortunately, that's the way the school is built. And
I wonder if it's because the fans aren't working the exhaust to pull it up.
I think it's just the way.
I thought I was told it was air intake.
Oh, an intake. Okay.
Yeah. So, anyway. And then we will be meeting again next Tuesday at 3, and then the following Tuesday at 3, and then everything should be done. The deep cleaning is happening August 9th through the 15th.
And then we have a
all of the filters will be switched.
Yes, that's the very last thing to happen, so that
Are they
we
new
don't
filters?
Yes.
use the new filters to filter out all this junk that's
Right, they
going
want
on.
to like get all the dust
Yeah.
and clean and whatever through first before they.
And I think the Univent system isn't gonna be, the Univent in that area isn't gonna be cleaned until they put the tiles back, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
So they're gonna do that first, then clean it, then replace filters.
Okay.
No, you're done. Did you have a question?
I do have something about the finance committee, but that I can do that.
Do you mind if we stay
Nope,
on
not
this
at
line?
all. I just wanted.
Oh,
to
yeah, I
get
just,
something
I know that there was some
Just wanted you to know on that
questions that,
We are discussing that tomorrow.
Okay.
What was this, what was that, were you discussing?
some
Some
unusual
Some
costs.
That were passed on, in that, well, I don't wanna say passed on. There were some invoices that we received for work that's been done, in relation to other things, and we need to clarify with the town how those will be handled and what services are being paid for,
Under the
for what.
contract this is for the project manager, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the question was, or the concern, just so is that there's costs associated with the person's, what we're paying, a salary or contract, and then this additional cost was not stipulated in that contract, correct?
So it's like subcontracted. Usually when you have a contract with a contractor, it's all inclusive to get the job done. Anybody they have to hire during it is a subcontractor cost that they normally estimate in their proposal.
This
We're
is nothing
paying
you
a
were-
fee for the project manager and then also being handed invoices for the subcontractors. So
That was not anticipated.
completely unanticipated. So we're meeting to discuss that.
And they're significant, right?
Significant. There's a $4,000 one, a $14,000 one, and a $2,000 one at this moment. There's been a couple of little ones that we have taken on, like with Butler lumber or something like that, that we've actually already paid on the school side. But, you know.
These are beyond.
These are.
So I will say, in terms of the $14,000 one, that is something that was brought to our attention in regard, that was specific to the painting of the building. Initially, the plan was to have the custodial staff do the painting of the building. This was something that was discussed with Mara Hogan was there, Justine St. John, Greg Johnson, myself, and the project managers in terms of having a professional painting company come in terms of the scope of the work. And the additional cost associated was discussed for that particular invoice. As we will work together to find the funding, I was very explicit at that meeting that, the school department budget is well established in terms of needing to spend those resources on what we're spending those resources on, I should say, with not a lot of wiggle room. And so if we were going to pull any funding for that piece, we would not be doing other things. It is not a matter of, a slush fund of some capacity. And the folks there, myself included, felt that in terms of perception, it was important that we allocate those resources. And Greg Johnson and I said we would work together to do this. At that point, we then received an email recently with those costs and other ways associated. So it's really just making sure that we're on the same page about how these components are being done. I think there's a lot of costs that are being incurred because I know the finance committee has been asking, do we have to do these things or these costs we have to incur? And the reality is that the vast majority of these costs we did not have to incur. However, we are where we are, and you know there seems to be some component of this that we need to get across the finish line, and so we need to, as a community and as a town, figure out how we want to do that. You know, so I think that that's the conversation we're wanting to have. I have to say, every time I've spoken with the folks at the town, they are certainly willing to be collaborative. And the reality is, and I said this to Greg in an email as well, we are well aware that there is one pot of money, and that not only do we not have you know, free cash resources that we can simply throw at the problem, neither does the town. So a lot of this is going to be making choices about things that we had intended to do with those funds that we are now going to say we're not doing that in order to paint the pre-K and K way in order to do these pieces.
So can I just make sure I'm understanding or processing this or surmising it in my mind? So we, as a school, we had a plan that we were acceptable to have the custodians do the painting, and then the project manager had a recommendation instead to do painting, and the agreement was not the school's recommendation, it was the project manager who made this recommendation. And so then the project manager hired a company, and then the associated cost with that is now being asked to be paid by the school.
Yes.
And that's that.
It is being asked to be paid.
No, it's being asked to be paid by the school.
I was under the impression that it was decided to have a professional company come in because the custodians were so out straight that they couldn't.
No, it was about the quality of the painting job. He
feel that
didn't
they were
feel
gonna
that-
Quality.
Quality.
And that difference of quality is a $14,000 difference, is what we're saying.
Do we have an added cost because we brought in a project manager?
Yes.
Right. The project manager has
And that was incorporated into that 653,000 number.
That's a
We've already got
$30,000. But that's right? Isn't that like about
Yeah.
30,000?
So
That's a town. The town is.
Sounds absorbing that?
Yeah, so
Yes,
that was,
the
I
town
believe
absorbed.
that was and I don't
I'm seeing
know- I don't
Justine
know-
do head nod, so I feel like I'm on track.
I think it's better, honestly, for them to have a conversation with Greg tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because I know pieces of it.
Yeah, I
And
feel like- I
so
feel like
it's
I'm
quite
trying to-
annoying,
right.
But I think there's nuances to all of
Okay,
this.
so a follow up on that. We'll all be expecting that.
My understanding after the budget committee meeting is that because we haven't had a facilities person for a while, there was money that Greg could then allocate for this project manager just to take over that part for a brief.
So maybe that would be part of the painting. Maybe the painting is part of that. That Greg.
There was an explicit conversation that would be above and beyond and
Okay.
It sounds like at this point, I appreciate your
But-
bringing it up, that we'll have that conversation.
Yeah.
There'll be some nuances, and we'll see where we stand.
And at that meeting, Greg definitely said that he was willing to work and figure out how we were gonna do this, so.
All right. Thank you.
Very good. I would like to return to Lydia, who was not done.
I was.
I think
No,
she
you
was.
weren't in Green Meadow.
Yes, but you had other things to say, and we're doing member comments now.
Oh, okay.
And so you can continue with your member comment. We
The
haven't
finance
closed you.
committee update. Yeah.
Hmm?
The finance committee. That's what you
Yes,
said you were
exactly,
doing.
finance committee. So we met for the first time last night. Marianne was unable. She had an anniversary.
No, I had it in the wrong date, but that's okay.
Well, I was trying to be
Thank
nice.
you, but that's okay. No,
Yeah,
I missed
okay.
that. I missed that.
So because she wasn't there, David Gavin nominated her as chair, and Bob Murphy seconded it, but then we decided that was mean and we wouldn't vote, so. Anyway, so there is, the numbers came in, and the FY '20 budget is short by about $170,000. So the town needs to come up with that in addition to other expenses. They have typically gone with, I think, what they've used as a predictor in creating the budget is the local aid that we get from the House Ways and Means Committee. This year, that didn't come through. It was
Did it just get signed though?
It was-
I was just gonna, yeah.
I was gonna say there's been it
The
just got
budget just got
signed. Just got
signed.
signed yesterday or yeah.
Right, we had the meeting last night.
Yeah, I don't know if it was.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know if it was part of that.
2 nights ago. What?
Two
What
nights
day
ago.
is it?
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. But those numbers are fairly firm, aren't they?
No, that's, so, yeah, because the numbers come from, so you get the governor's budget, then you get the House budget, then you get the Senate budget, then you get the committee budget. So we typically go with, not the governor's, we go with the House, or he was basing it on the House budget.
Right.
But when it came out of committee just this past week, there was an additional, I think it was an additional $90,000 shortfall for school choice sending. That was completely unexpected. It wasn't on any of our
Radar.
radars for any of that.
Yeah.
So.
So,
Thank you.
so now the thought is, well, how are we going to predict going forward? So for FY21, and if they were to go by what happened this year, for next year, we're going to end up with a $350,000 additional. No, it was. I can't remember. Sorry, I don't have my paper in front of me. Anyway, there are deficits.
Scary numbers.
There's scary numbers. There are deficits, and I think that we need to possibly put on the agenda for either next time or for September. We need to have a discussion about looking at places in our budget that are nice to haves but not absolutely necessary, because
Wouldn't that be part of what you end up, like it all comes down to what you end up doing, right? Is kind of looking at those pieces of where our shortfalls. Do you think before that?
Well, I think the piece that we work on is the wants. Like the department request is really what they feel their needs and wants are. And then taking those needs and wants and looking at other places within their budget that they can have those needs and wants. It's not necessarily looking at their budget and saying, what can I do without, and give up those funds. It's more so reallocating the funds within their budget. When we talk about when the town gives us our number and our department request is ridiculously higher than that number, that's when we have that conversation of what are the things that we can give up and release those funds, because we don't have that.
The other piece of this is that that's the process we've been undertaking, and one of the things that I think, and Lydia, that's maybe what you're speaking about, is that we use more of a zero-based budgeting approach of what the essential components are. Because currently what we do is we say we need the same things we had last year, rather than what are our programs that we need to have, why are we offering them? And I know, one of the things that Michelle had brought to us was the Understanding School Finance night that we did a few years ago. There's another protocol that they have in terms of aligning your budget for your strategic plan to meet your strategic goals, which I think is a lot of those components. And I think, so the pieces that I think we really need to have some really hard conversations about, that we've talked about them in isolation, but the class size reduction, we spend a significant amount of money in that capacity. How are we allocating our paraprofessional resources, and where are we using those? What is the return on investment we're getting for that component? Our special education programming. I mean, these are all cost centers that every district, when they're looking at budget shortfalls, those are the places where you're looking at those components in that capacity. And so I think it's really having a conversation about what are the priorities of the community, and if those are our priorities, what does that mean in terms of funding? If small class size is a priority of the community, that means we're going to be investing in teachers for small class sizes, class size reduction, which means we will not have those resources in order to do, for example, additional guidance support for social emotional learning. So I think there's a lot of those conversations that need to be had.
Paper. I'm just gonna say, I was totally freaked out about how much we spend in paper, thousands of thousands, and so I think that would be one area of how we can be more efficient in the copies. So
I think that is one piece. I don't think it's gonna
no, it's not gonna be $100,000, but I was yeah.
And Stephen Wojcik has been that is his next one of the next things he would like to tackle is how much we spend on copiers and paper. Additionally, if you look instructionally, if you're photocopying a lot of paper, what are the students doing? So there's a lot of pieces there, but I don't think it's going to get to the dollar figure that you're looking at.
Right. And the other thing that I just wanted to bring up is in terms of fiscal year 20, where there is going to be a shortfall, I would like for us to put in a good faith effort in trying to find funds that we could maybe help offset that $170,000. So I think that's, if that's something that we could put on an agenda in the next month or so, that would be.
Did you mention that we already frozen?
Yeah, we're like starting the year frozen right now.
Right.
I've also sent out a no PO, no pay protocol to all of our staff. We are sending it out to all of our vendors because that's a lot of this. I can say we're frozen and people still go out and spend, and I still have to pay for those items, and it really kind of kicks us in the butt in the end of the year. So it's, this year.
It's really going to be like school leadership, just putting, digging in the heels about that.
We really do, and it's. I understand it's not something we've been used to.
It's not ideal. No, it's not ideal, but it's a necessity. It's a necessity.
But it's, you gotta run it like a.
Companies do that.
You gotta run it like a business. I hate saying that because I don't feel like education should be a business, but the way we have to run it.
Well, some pieces you have to. I mean, it's
100%.
So.
Yep.
And just, Jen, can I ask a clarifying question? When you said that there was a lot of work done that we didn't have to do, what were you referring to?
So do we need to paint the building? No, we didn't need to
Okay.
paint the building.
Okay. All right.
Did we need to, I don't know, I can't think off the top of my head.
Okay.
But in terms of the steps that we've undertaken, I mean, the entire remediation, frankly, we did not need to remediate the ceiling. That was a choice that we made in that capacity. The only things that we were required to do was, I believe, if I was speaking, forgive me, was to do the cleaning and those pieces. So we chose to do the remediation of the ceiling, which, whether it was the right step or not the right step, these are all choices that we're making. And so when we now are in a situation where we're 3/4 of the way through this piece, to then go back and say, well, we didn't have to do all of these steps, doesn't move us forward in any sort of capacity, was more my point.
Okay. Got it.
So it is getting late. I would like to see if there are member comments that folks would
I
like
just had a couple. So I was going to ask Kate Hogan, our state rep, to come in, but maybe it's a little too premature to have her come in. Justine, just maybe what I'll do is I'll ask her if she can come in one of the September meetings just to talk about the budget at that point, because they'll be that much further down. So if that's okay, I'll do that. And then I had a question about senior projects. Since we have, it's going to change its complexion a little bit with Paul. Right. How is that? How do we know how that's going to come down?
So we are hiring Jean Lavelle, who is the other coordinator for senior project, is on the hiring committee for that position with Principal Cardenas. For folks who don't know, Paul Orzick did resign to go to a different district, and I have to say I'm incredibly proud because the way that this happened was that the state came in to see our senior project through our Leading the Nation initiative. They were impressed by what we had. They asked us to come and present at one of their meetings, and a principal saw Paul's and Jean's presentation and asked Paul to come and lead the development of a senior project.
Poached him.
But in another capacity, we have a staff member who is taking something that was built in Maynard and is spreading it across the state. He stepped into a leadership role to do something.
Very good development.
That piece of it. So this is something.
It hurts a little bit, but it's great.
Absolutely. It is great for him.
Celebrating his success and
Absolutely.
moving on. But
And the other component of it is that I truly believe in, if we have organizations and structures, that it is a well-defined program, it will transcend the personnel who are there. And so I believe, are in that capacity where there's enough structure built in. But again, Jean is sitting on that hiring committee to hire that person. That person will oversee the senior project in that same capacity. But that is the intention of that hiring, to make sure that we have someone who can be a support for Jean as she moves through that process. So, yeah, sure.
And I had a request of Stephen, if he could put on the website every year, we try and update where the students, our seniors, were accepted to colleges and universities, not where they went, but where they've been accepted.
We do that within the budget book too, so that would be.
So I'm not sure if because it was Paul that used to do it, so I just wanted to pass that on to Stephen if he could, take that on.
Or you may be able to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I appreciate that because they have been, they continue to get into amazing schools, and that's one of the things people look at when they're thinking of moving to town. So that's it.
great.
All right.
All right.
I did have one quick thing. I was so excited to get the newsletter and to see that they're changing the SMART goals. See that? Yay!
Well, that was one of the things.
I was going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that we learned in our
Yeah, I was so excited. They'll really be smart.
the format. Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
I'll leave that for you. You can talk about that. So I was able to meet just kind of what I mentioned earlier with Donna and Tim, principals over at Green Meadow. We talked about the school council, and I won't revisit all that, but it was really great where we had those conversations about aligning budget conversations for the school council. So that was the other day. It was also reassuring to hear that he does have the contact information for the project manager on site, so that there's any questions or concerns, the administrator on site is able to address those with the project manager. We have a CPAC collaboration meeting August 6th. We have our workshop August 5th for school committee for goals and vision. I did see that the choose your own, I was looking at the technology announcements of the choose your own one-to-one device program that Stephen had posted something about that going out, and the preferred device for this year. And I was wondering, just having gone through it last year with my own personal parent experience, if there was maybe any suggestions of specs for like covers or sleeves that he might be able, like a tips and tricks for parents as we go into year 2. That might be, I know there was, Dan talked about something. I know we had a couple of these forums, but just thinking about, with that particular device, if you want to buy a sleeve, what are the specs, what do you look for? If there's a preferred, he mentioned, I don't think a cover would be better, I think a sleeve. So just for parents that are kind of going into that. And then, and also just that difference from going from 4th grade to 5th grade of, you go from a homework log where now parents don't have as much, or last year we didn't have as much visibility into the homework. So there's kind of teeing up the transition of how that experience from a parent would be going into that piece. And that's all. That's really all I have.
Okay. Do you have anything?
I said everything I needed to
Okay.
say tonight.
All right. So, DESE, which is Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, just redid their model rubric for superintendents, which I'm so excited about because the last one was really awful. And so the model is going to be available on August 15th. And it's piloted for this school year, so they're basically leaving it up to school districts to whether or not they want to use the pilot this year or not. I
it's faster.
strongly
Yes.
suggest that we do it. So it has really from what this says, the bulletin says, is that it really has simplified the indicator levels and the elements and descriptors. So it's a lot easier to help us create better SMART goals. So that's all I have to say.
I'd be excited about that too. I know they talked about it in our charting the course. It's one of the takeaways we haven't reported back, but like we were like, yeah, that's cool. It was on the horizon.
Yes. Yeah.
So, cool beans.
All right. So I think
Let's end it.
I make
We're
a
in a-
motion that we adjourn.
second discussion. Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody,
Thank you.
for your commitment
Oh, you're
to being
voting.
here this evening.
Oh, I thought you wanted to comment.